Hello and welcome to Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. Barry, Iceman from the forum again. For anyone who's just joined us and any new listeners, our phone up to the podcast is celticrooms.co.uk, where all Celtic supporters discuss all things Celtic. Match Reaction is the team today of today's show between Jablonec and Celtic in the Europa League qualifier, in which Celtic won 4-2. Abida, Fukuhashi, Forrest and Christie, the goals for Celtic. Firstly though, before we get on to the show, Mark will just do a few shout outs. Mark?
Well, I hadn't swear to anything for that, Paul, but just the usual shout outs to the lads, Tim Alloy, Malika, a Glasgow Green, Young Ben. If I forgot anybody there, I apologise. I didn't.
Glasgow Green.
A Glasgow Green, aye.
Jeez, man.
I thought we were just going to talk about the game. Going to do that.
Shout-outs are shout-outs.
You usually send me a schedule out where
I know.
we're going to talk about the game.
Look, we get straight to it. Barry, welcome to join us again for the match reaction. It's a win. It's a much-needed win for Celtic. We take it, but it wasn't as plain sailing as we thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. First and foremost, Paul, it's a win's a win.
Mm-hmm.
These games can never be straightforward. They're never easy games. I didn't know too much about that team beforehand, if I'm honest, but I was kind of anticipating it would be a tough game.
Mm-hmm.
To finish third in the Czech League behind the two Prague teams, there weren't any mugs. However, after seeing them, I wasn't overly impressed. To be perfectly honest, I thought they were sort of big physical type side.
That's it, really, yeah.
They got stuck in, but I thought we started the game pretty well. We moved the ball pretty quickly and started to create chances early on, and got the 2-0 lead. But the Achilles heel of Celtic, time and time again, they're just so vulnerable at the back.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be that we're so easy to play against, so easy to open up. But listen, like a 4-2 victory, that should certainly be enough to see us through into the next round. So like you say, we'll take it as a positive. It's Big Ange's first win, and it's hopefully something we can build on.
Mm-hmm. Mark, I'm just looking at the stats that came out. So Celtic had 17 shots to Jablonec's 15. On target, we had 8, they had 5. Possession, we had 66%. They only had 33. Passes, we created 621. They created only 313. We had an 85% pass rate. So we can see the change that Ange's bringing. Like if our passing accuracy is getting better,
you can see what trying to do, Paul. But it was just silly mistakes again.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. It was 2 silly mistakes again that cost us 2 goals. And
I saw there as well. Go on, Mark. Sorry.
We know that the defence isn't good enough, so we've got to allow for that for this result kind of thing. But we know that he's got to change. We've got to bring in new defenders, and they're going to have to be a big improvement in them. So again, it's kind of we're kind of expecting these type of mistakes for Celtic. Was anybody really surprised that they scored? Well, I was surprised they scored 2, but was anybody really surprised that they'd get at least 1? The way the team's been playing.
Exactly. Like I was seeing some people there, but when we were on the live chat there on the phone, some people were blaming Hart for the second goal, but you can't really blame Hart if you don't have the players who are pushing up and are not able to get back. Starfelt for me went to ground too easily and gave the striker time to turn the ball and have his shot and goal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it comes before that for me, Paul. It's just, you look at both goals, it was one pass that goes
exactly
right,
open.
So, the first one, just one pass through the middle of a gaping gap between Beaton and Starfelt. And the second one was just a through. But, I mean, it is just so very basic.
But that's what happens as well, Barry, when you play a midfielder in the back line, that he's not able to read the ball either.
Yeah. And that's been the case for a long time. I've never been Beaton's biggest fan, but I certainly wouldn't have him as the centre half. I think Welsh can probably find himself a wee bit hard done by. I don't think he's done too much to merit losing his place. But also, Beaton was massively at fault for the result at Midtjylland. The home result. Exactly. I think that would have been won relatively comfortably had he stayed on the park. But I think as well, when our defence is as vulnerable as it is, I don't think they get very much protection either. I think what you like to say, when we're all very well aware that the frailties in the back four. So as a result, I think we should be looking to protect them. We should be looking to limit, the teams breaking on us. But for me, it's just far too easy. Like I say, 2 through balls has resulted in 2 goals. And for me, they were a poor team. I didn't, like I say, I didn't know too much about them beforehand. Watching them tonight, I don't think they're a great side at all.
Especially, Barry, when they had no pace, and as you said there, they opened us up so easily, and they had no pace in their team. You know what I mean? That they opened, and Celtic are a faster team than last season, but it was so easy, like you said, 2 passes, and there we are. And Ange really needs to protect. So I know McCarthy's not going to be available again for the second leg here, but does McCarthy fill into that role maybe to protect defence when he comes in?
Well, I would say that's one of his strengths, isn't it? McCarthy is very much your sort of defensive midfield. He'll probably slot into the Scott Brown role within the team. I'm not saying he's the same player as Scott Brown, but he's certainly a defensive midfielder. He's good at breaking up play, good at getting the ball back, wins his tackles, and a physical element in there. So I think he will certainly slot in there. At whose expense, I don't know. It might be Soros, I would imagine. I think for me, McCarthy is a bit of an upgrade on Soros. So I think, agree with that.
Because I was looking, and I was saying to Mark off air and stuff like that, Soros seems too rash with his tackles. He's missing tackles that he should be getting. He's giving away too many free kicks. A lot. He's losing the ball too high up the field as well, and then he's caught out of position then as well, Barry.
I agree with that, Paul. Especially with regards to giving away the free kicks. When we're as sort of poor and vulnerable at set pieces, you really can't afford to be giving away the free kicks that Soros gives away.
That's going back to protecting your defence. You don't give away these little things, Barry. Yeah?
That's kind of the point I was wanting to make. When our defences is vulnerable, what you've got to do is you've got to protect them. You've got to limit the team's chances and the team's opportunities to break onto them. But like I say, when they weren't a great side, so to lose 2 goals against them was disappointing. However, like I say, games in Europe are never easy.
No, especially this season, exactly.
We've got to look on the positives today. Like I say, going away from home, scoring 4 goals, getting the victory, hopefully to see us in the next round, and it's something to build on. It's Big Ange's first victory, a competitive victory as a Celtic manager, so hopefully we can build on that. I'd imagine there'll be more signings coming in the door within the next 7 days. Probably not for the next leg, obviously, because I think you have to be registered by now, but there'll be another game on Sunday against Dundee. But I thought as well, another positive, I thought Kyogo, his presence up front, it just shows you the difference when somebody's willing to work hard and
run. Exactly. That was the next point we were told I was going to bring up there. Yeah, a player who will make the effort for you up front.
Yeah, he was giving himself options. He was dropping into holes. He was finding space. I think polar opposite to what we've had from Eddie for a long time now. It's so difficult for a midfield to try and get up the park or break on a team when the one person that they've got, the guy that they're trying to hit up front, he's not really interested and he's not giving them the options. But I thought Kyogo, for the time he was on, I was quite impressed with the way he sort of led the line, and he took his goal fantastically well. It was a great goal and a big difference.
Do you think he's going to be Edwards' replacement, Barry?
You know what, Mark? I would like to think not, if I'm honest. I think if Edward goes, we're going to need to bring someone in. However, I'm guessing unless there is another winger comes in, I know there was talk Lovrich coming in, but however, if unless a winger comes in, I could see Kyogo being a striker this year. I really can. But I wouldn't like to think he would be the replacement for Edward, just for the simple.
You want somebody with physicality up there as well, Barry, wouldn't you?
That's exactly it. I would like somebody with a bit of presence up there. Go out and spend a wee bit of money. We're hopefully going to get a decent fee for Edward, whatever that may be, in the next coming weeks once he moves on, which hopefully he will do. But I would be looking to go out and actually sign not a like-for-like replacement, but certainly somebody else to come in as a striker to replace Edward and to have Kyogo up there as well as another option.
Mark, I suppose that was the big question in the lineup where we were doing the last few podcasts since the competitive start, was the lack of effort that we saw from Edward, and we were screaming for him to be dropped, and he's dropped it, and you could see how fast our attack was actually without him, you know.
As Barry was saying there, that his movement, he was chasing balls down, chasing men about the park and that, and a totally different night and day performance from what we're used to for Edward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know,
really, they got a wee third run out the other night, but for somebody for the debut and come in, and it looked as if he'd been playing there for no years, but didn't look as if it was his first game.
It just shows the class of the player, Mark, don't it? Yeah, exactly.
You could see some of the wee passing and moving between the likes of him and McGregor and that even in the space of a week or so, they've been working on that in training for them to be that comfortable with doing that like in a competitive game. It'll only get better the longer he's here to settle in. Do you know what I mean? It's really showed up well today, but
that just shows, Barry, as well, like how good player actually Furuhashi is, like that. He was able to link up with Celtic players so fast, you know, and he understood the Celtic play. Now that could be down to he knew the way Ange plays, but it's still all new to him, these Celtic players and stuff like that. But you wouldn't think it's only his first full debut at Celtic today, so you wouldn't?
No, absolutely, and obviously for his sort of Celtic, it's really early doors, you know. He's literally just in the door. I think he only travelled up, you know, I don't know, it's Friday or Saturday into the country. So he's only must have had, you know, 3 or 4 training sessions, but the early signs are really good. Like Mark was saying there, you know, the wee sort of 1-2s and link-up play with McGregor and Forrest, and, you know, I think, like, as well, wee Abada looks like a right good player, by the way. You know, I'm really impressed with that wee guy. And I didn't actually realise he was only 19-year-old. I had no idea. I thought he was older. I thought he was about 23, 24, 19-year-old. You know, like I said, it's early doors for Ange, and you know, he's not got the personnel yet that he wants. You know, we're well aware that over the next coming months there is going to be more players coming in the door.
I think Barry, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think once, you know, he's got all the players that he wants in, and like I said, 2 or 3 probably going out, once he's got that transfer window closes, you know, the team are only going to grow and get better and better. So, but the early signs for, like I say, Abada and, you know, Kyogo, you know, it's really good because it's, like I said, they've only been in there a matter of days or and weeks on Abada's sense. But, you know, the early signs are very positive, and it's going to be positive for the team, I think.
I think we can see the effect Ange is having on the team on an attacking front, but as you said, like, we can't see it at the moment because he doesn't have the right personnel in at the back line, but that will come. But what we've seen of Ange so far on attacking front is pretty exciting, and Celtic seem to be a very fast team. We're not holding the ball, we're not doing too many touches. It seems to be one touch football and get the ball moving again, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think more so tonight than Saturday. I think there's a big difference in the way that we played from the Hearts game. I thought it was kind of a bit slow and laboured against Hearts, and for me, Starfelt and Beaton were on the ball far too much on Saturday night. I think there was a big difference tonight. I think, you know, they moved the ball quicker into the midfield, into Sorrow, into McGregor, into these guys, and let these guys go and play. These are our ball players. They're the guys that we need on the ball. And I think, like I say, by half time, we could have scored 4 or 5 goals. And similar in the second half. I don't think we were as good in the second half. I think they pressed us a wee bit higher in the second half. But again, the chances that we created was night and day from, you know, what we've been used to. And it's certainly definitely a fast attacking brand of football that Ange's wanting to play.
Do you think, Mark, them pressing us more higher in the second half was their manager seeing that our defence was actually our weakest point in the team?
I think he must have seen that because it was some change in them for the first half to the second half. But they were getting in about us, and they were kind of getting us flustered again at times, weren't they? Starfelt, I don't know, Starfelt, see for that their second goal, I thought Starfelt...
He went out too early, and that's not...
But it's back to again, if he's playing with Beaton aside him, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Is Ange maybe trying to send the board a message with playing Beaton, saying, "Look, this is kind of my options." I really can't understand why he started again tonight.
Because I was listening to John Hartson.
That team wasn't any better than a Scottish Premier League team. So Welsh has proved himself against
Exactly.
Welsh is more than capable of playing in there than he, as besides Starfield. And with Alston and even Taylor. Taylor, I mean, I backed up Taylor at the whole.
He looks out of his depth, Mark, don't he?
I don't know what's happened to him these last.
And as you said, Mark,
it's obvious that we need two new fullbacks.
And as you said, Mark, like,
all I was going to say is basically we started with a new first choice goalkeeper in his first game that only signed yesterday, and one centre half that's only been here a couple of days. It's only Hart and Starfelt that are going to be starters in that defensive unit as Celtic move forward.
Like, one thing I did see from Hart, now he didn't have much to do, and we have to give him that. Like, he was at no fault for the goals. In my opinion, he came out to narrow the angle. Stafford went down too early. The fella had an open shot in the goal, dinked it above Hart. Like, so I'm not going to put that on Hart there for that. But one thing I did see from Hart is that he's vocal, Barry. He seems to be more vocal than Barkas and Bain and goal.
Yeah, I think you know what, you noticed at a corner in the first half he was barking out orders. And you know what? See when you've got a goalkeeper that's looking to organise and let people know where they should be and who they should be picking up and stuff like that. That makes a massive difference. And like I said, I don't think that's really in the game. Certainly Bain, and Barkas. I don't really think the vocal element is there for them, so that'll make a big difference. But like Mark says, that was Hart's first game tonight. He's again another player that's just in the door. But I wholeheartedly agree with what you just said, man. I can only see Starfelt being the only remaining defender within that team. I don't think Ralston, Taylor, or Beaton will be first choice picks. I think once we get players in the door, it'll be a completely new back four that we'll have.
Because when I was listening to the match before the game and the lineup came out, and I was listening to John Hart and the first thing he picked out and the first thing he said was, why is Beaton play? Why isn't young Welch in there? As Mark said, he's proven himself in the Scottish League. He's proven in the second, due to Beaton being sent off in the first. He did well against Midtjylland. He done well when he came on against Hearts. Why is he being dropped? There seems to be no, and that's the only criticisms really I have of Ange's, why he's constantly playing Beaton.
Oh, I'd like to think that Ange has actually explained to the boy why he's dropped him. Either that, because if he's not took him to the side, and as I said at the time with Midtjylland, if he said, look, we're just going with Beaton's experience in that, don't worry, you'll still get plenty. But if he's not said to the boy what he's done, it's like, well, why is he? Do you get what I mean? You've got to question why Ange is doing this, why he is consistently picking Beaton or Welsh.
Because, as you said, why is he constantly, if we can see it clearly, Mark, and we saw for the last couple of seasons when we tried to play Beaton in the back line, Celtic will concede goals with Beaton in that back line.
We used to say that he was all right covering there now and again, but he's proven out our time that he actually isn't. I mean, we did Beaton, he can play centre mid, the defensive mid, and he can cover at centre back, and he done no bad at a few games, but really, it's like a square peg in a round hole again for me, putting Beaton in as a centre back.
Because what I picked out on the 43rd minute there of the first half, Beaton was out on the right hand side, and one of their players turned him easily. And if Beaton would have went to ground, Barry, or even gave a tackle there, proper tackle, like Welch or we saw from young Dane Murray against Midtjylland, proper tackles, Beaton would have got the ball, but instead he conceded a corner, which at the moment, corners is like a penalty to Celtic. Beaton won't go in for a hard tackle with you because he's afraid to get injured, and he's not that type of player who would go in for a tackle either.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? To be honest, it's the one disappointing. I'm not disappointed, but it's the one disappointing or the one puzzling choice to play Beaton, because I really don't understand it. I know there's certain sort of posters and people on the forum who like Beaton as a squad player. I don't. I need to be honest. I don't think Beaton. I mean,
it's time for to go, Barry.
you know what? I challenged my mate. I said, like, in the 6 or 7 years he's been here, can you tell me 3 games that he's been outstanding? Because, like Mark, you said there, he's had a few half decent games, but that's it. You know, he's been at the club now for 6 or 7 years, and I don't really see the purpose that he serves in it. Certainly not as centre half. I really just don't like the guy. I don't think he offers anything whatsoever.
Because myself and Mark were saying, Barry, that Beeson has taken up a place on the bench or even the squad that maybe the likes of Luke O'Connell, Ewan Henderson or young Dembele could take that position on the bench and get that experience. Now,
well, you've got to ask yourself why that is, because like I said, it's not like he's coming in and he's been outstanding and he's doing really well in any position he plays, whether it be centre half, which is what he's played for, you know, the past sort of season or two. He's never been like great. He's caused a lot of problems actually. He caused the defeat at Ibrox. He's never particularly good in the air for somebody at 6'5". He's making constant mistakes. He gives the ball away. I just don't see what maybe other managers or, you know, is he maybe outstanding in training Monday to Friday and they just keep on going with it? Because for me, he's a big problem. I would much rather. I'd actually have young Dane Murray in there before I'd have Beaton. I just don't see the appeal for Near Beaton being the centre half.
He's not even physical, Barry. Do you mean he doesn't even have a physique about him to be a centre back?
Look at they had a big lump up front. You know, they had a big guy, and you could see how many times he just laid the shoulder into Beaton and was able to turn him or was able to just nudge him off the ball. Like you say, he's not one that particularly wants to go thundering into a tackle, whether that be that he doesn't want to get hurt or he just doesn't know how to do it. But, you know, for me, I wouldn't see him anywhere near the Celtic squad. He just doesn't do it for me. Not even as a squad player, not for me.
And Mark, that will come a problem. We said in the previous podcast when Barry was walking through, we might have missed it, that if Beeson comes up with a fast player or a physical player, and if they turn him, Beeson one is caught for space, and then Beeson will give away a stupid foul or end up getting a booking or end up getting sent off because of his lack of pace, his lack of physique, playing the position that clearly he can play.
Well,
you know?
I've said it in the last couple of podcasts about Beaton. Totally agree with what Barry's saying there. I just don't know what he offers to the squad. I don't know why he's quite happy to be where he is at this stage in his career. I mean, even if he goes back to Israel, he's going back to Israel. He's a rich man. He's got a bag full of medals that I'm not saying he's not earned the medals, but he's not been your Scott Brown or your Callum McGregor type of.
Exactly, he didn't cut.
He's not been consistently in the team and putting his shifts in for the team to win these medals, kind of idea. So it's baffling, it really is. I don't know why this thing's.
And because Barry, I don't know why you listened to the last podcast, but because of Beeson still being around, he's stopping young players getting that place in the first team squad. And one player he's stopping is Luke O'Connell. And I was saying to Mark last week that Aston Villa,
Welsh getting in the team tonight, Paul.
And Aston Villa are now looking at Luke O'Connell to take Luke O'Connell away from Celtic.
Well, there you go. You know, they again.
That's the problem in having players, Mark, who should have been moved on maybe two years. And the reason I think Beeson stayed on is because Lennon became the manager and Lennon wanted him around because he was one of the first players around when Lennon was there as well, wasn't he? You know?
Yeah, you know what? I think, if I remember correctly, Beaton was well out the picture at Celtic under Brendan Rodgers, and Lennon's very first game and back in charge, don't know if you remember it, quite a famous, we went to Tynecastle, won 2-1, Edward scored in the last minute. Beaton started. Beaton came out from Siberia. He honestly was that far gone, and he started the game, and he's kind of been in and out the team ever since. But I kind of thought after the whole escapade at Midtjylland, where we were 1 up, comfortable, looking to go on and score 2, 3, 4, he then gets sent off and it costs us, and suspended for the next. I kind of thought that would be him. I kind of thought, well, he's been found out. Ange knows what he's all about. We'll probably not see him in a Celtic jersey for any time soon. But then he's backing against Hearts tonight, which I couldn't really understand. But there you go. The manager decided to pick him. But like I said, not for me. He's not a player that would merit a place in the squad for me at all.
But what was I going to say? That he's not even been punished for his mistake. I'm not even a mistake. His balls up against Midtjylland. I mean,
he's cost us the tie, Mark.
Aye, but obviously, I mean, he's been fined for the red card and things like that. But for me, if you've been sent off, it's up to you to prove to win your place back in the team.
Yeah.
If you're
absolutely.
I don't. If you're out the team for any reason, it's up to you to win your place back in the team. Nobody should be just an automatic, especially not somebody at level of Beaton. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking about somebody that can be a game changer for us or that. So
And that's going down to the likes of Scott Brown as well, Mark. I think he probably knew as well that his playing time will be limited under Celtic this year with a new manager coming in and stuff like that. And Scott Brown, being Scott Brown, probably knew himself he didn't have the legs, and he maybe thought, look, I only have a year or two left to play. I want to go and play football. And that, but Beaton doesn't see it that way, does he? Beaton is happy to take the wage, sit back, and just come into the squad anytime he wants.
I'd be, be a bit part player. Whereas that's a young boy, that's a young player's job to sit on the bench and be happy to be a bit part player and get their wee chances here and there, prove things. Am I right, Barry?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think you have touched on it before. For me, if there's a sort of gaping hole in the squad or a player that's out injured for a period of time, like Christopher Julian was, what happened there was that then Welsh stepped in, and that's exactly what should happen. Where, like I say, I don't really understand. Beaton is never going to be. To be honest, throughout his Celtic career, he never really has been a mainstay in the Celtic midfield. He's never been a first-pick midfielder.
Never nailed any position down as his own.
No, absolutely not. So it's like I say, like you kind of touched on, but it's a strange one that you get a player who is kind of just willing and happy to sit back and say, well, you know what, I'm quite happy to play maybe 13, 14, 15 games in a 60-game season, or come in if there's somebody suspended. Players, for me, you want to go and play football. And if you're not getting a game at your current club, you go and find football elsewhere. You have a chat with the manager. You say, it's not worked out for me. It's maybe time I moved on. But am I right in saying it's about 7 years he's been at the club? So it can't be far off it.
Stay 7, 8 years, yes. About 7, 8 years, I'd say he's been there.
Just have a wee check,
Because I think it was Neil Lennon that signed him in his first tenure. I'm pretty sure of that.
I think it was Lennon that brought him in. That's right.
2013.
So there you go. There's 8 years he's been there. But like I say, guys, I mean, for me, I thought, I'm a wee bit of this, but I kind of thought after the match, like you say, Mark, for a guy who is supposed to be an experienced player, to get sent off for something like that's pretty unforgivable. And I thought that would be maybe the last time we'd see Beaton in a Celtic jersey for potentially costing us that tie. But no, he was back, and I'm surprised he's taken Welsh's spot. I really am.
Another player who's really kind of struggled with Ange, and he's struggled with the pace. I think we knew it wasn't his strengths, but he's actually being found out now by kind of lesser, weaker teams that maybe he wasn't being caught out. Is Taylor seems to be is caught out position a lot better because of his lack of pace.
I just isn't. As I've said earlier, Paul, I've backed up Taylor and that, but he just seems totally out of his depth on the pitch now. I don't know which. Don't know whether it's he can't do what Ange is asking him to do or that, but it's just he's totally. He's been really back the way as far as I'm concerned. I really can't back him up anymore, to be honest, Paul.
No. Like I was saying to Mark there about before we came on air. Now, should Ange maybe adjust his playing style at the back and just stop this new inverted defenders, he's calling them, that they tuck in, they make the space open for players? Like, should he just keep the back four settled at the back and not have him push up because of the lack of pace that we have and the mistakes that we're making constantly by pushing up too high?
Well, you know what, I don't think he will. I think Ange, from what I gather, from his personality, he's somebody that backs himself and somebody that believes in his style. And I think that'll come when he has the players that he believes can play that way. I think I would probably put Taylor, and maybe, actually, you know what, maybe not in the same bracket as Ralston. I wish no harm to these guys, because you know what, they pull on that Celtic jersey and they try their very best every time, they set foot on the pitch. But for me,
you can't fault any of the two of them for
no, absolutely, mate. My own personal belief is they're not at the level that we require to move forward and to progress as a team. And like I say, Taylor and Ralston, every time they step on, they give their all, they give 100%, but they're just not at that quality. And I kind of agree with you, Paul. If Ange is going to play this certain way, it'll not suit them. They're not guys who strike me as being overly comfortable on the ball. And to play these inverted fullbacks, basically they're kind of a lot of times being asked to be midfielders. And obviously a midfielder needs to be comfortable on the ball. So I think, like was touched on earlier, for me, there's no doubt in my mind that in the next sort of 3 to 4 weeks when that window closes, we're going to have a centre-back, at least 2 right-backs and a left-back brought into the club. And I'm quite happy for Taylor to sort of play the Beaton role as a backup role, if there's a suspension or injury, to slot in and play a few games. But for me, we need an out-and-out a quality fullbacks. And Andrew's going to know that because of the way he plays, because he wants his inverted fullbacks. He knows the type of player they need, players that need to be comfortable on the ball, and whether that's Buta on or Aurelio Buta on the right, and even if it's the young boy Scales that comes in on the left or another one, there's no doubt in my mind that Ange will be discussing with the recruitment guys that that they're desperately looking to bring in a couple of fullbacks, because it's only once he's got the fullbacks that he wants that you're going to see the benefit of his style. He's going to have a real belief, but I don't think he will change. I really don't. I think he's going to back himself until such times as that he brings in his own players.
I think that like a good coach would even just like tweak it.
Tweak it.
Barry, do you know what I mean? I mean, a daft man, blind man could tell you Taylor and Ralston struggle to play his system.
Play to your strengths, what you have at your disposal, Mark.
Why not just tweak it the now to tighten things up a wee bit at the back, and then then move on. He's kind of that way.
I'm not saying he shouldn't, Mark. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but I don't think he will. And
that's the type of manager he is.
You know what? I'm not comparing them at all, but it's like Guardiola. Yeah. See, when Guardiola was going through a bad spell, they had a run of 3 or 4 bad results. And he said that. He said himself. He says, no. He says, any poor goals we lose from playing the way that I want to play, it's on me. Don't blame my players, blame me. He never thought to himself, well, you know what? See, instead of trying to play it for the back, let's just go more direct because it's going to, limit the chances of losing a goal at back. He just kept on at it. And I think Ange is going to be the same. I'm not saying he should do that, Mark. I'm not saying he should stick. I mean, see the build-in from the back, like on Saturday.
It's a weird build-up for the back into the fact that the coming in rather than getting it to the centre half or do you know what I mean? The keeper out to centre half.
It's what, Mark?
What they're doing is they're making space, and I explained it to Atlantic. They're making space, Barry, for the wingers. So
that's exactly
their team will actually put into the centre, and it's actually opened up the pitch. Some that Celtic haven't done for a long time.
And what that actually does as well is it gives the opposition a problem because they don't know who to go with.
Yeah,
they don't know. Do I stick with the wine man or do I go into the midfield? And they've got a decision to make, and whatever decision it makes, it's supposed to create space for the other person. So, for example, if the opposition midfielder says, right, I'm going to follow Ralston in the park, that's supposed to give Abada the space.
Yeah,
and the opposite
exactly.
flank, or if they decide, well, actually, no, I'm going to stick on Abada, then what it's supposed to get Ralston on the ball. But therein lies the problem, is when you've got, it's not really
when you get Ralston on the ball, yeah, exactly.
Field, absolutely. Although, what the benefit for his goal on Saturday, but I'm not a big fan of the build-up from the back, to be honest. I think on Saturday it just invites pressure. When Skpe was getting the ball 3 yards from his own goal and he's got Hearts strikers bearing down on him, it's a recipe for disaster.
But you know what I noticed about Hart today, Barry, is that when Hart knew, and this is something that Bain or even Craig Gordon didn't do, or Barkas didn't do, Hearts recognised there today as well that our squad wasn't strong enough to be playing out for the back, and he did move the ball up a few times up the pitch just to clear a bit of pressure. So the keeper should be able to make that decision himself as well. Like that, if he knows they're under pressure and if there's too many of their men on top of us, make that decision and don't play the ball up from the back.
That's the thing, and you're absolutely right, Paul. And I did notice it tonight, and that's the way it should be.
Exactly.
See if it's on to pass out from the back. If you're not under pressure, or you can see that the full back's in yards of space, give it to him. But see if you think, well, actually, if I give it to Taylor here, he's got a guy about 5 or 6 yards away from him. We're under pressure. Go long. But what I noticed on Saturday was Bain wasn't doing that.
Exactly.
Bain was happy to give it to a McGregor or a Sorrow when there's somebody up their backside, and it just invites pressure. For me, that's the reason you lose to teams like Hearts. When you invite pressure on and they nick a ball and grab a goal, That's for me. That's not the right way to go about things. Do it when it's on. However, if it's not on, get the ball. Go a wee bit more direct. Go further.
Because you're going to have space up the park. Then anyway, Barry, if they're pushing up on top of you, so there's space there. Do you get me?
Well, that's it. You know what? You're picking up space, but you're also restricting the team from putting pressure on you.
Exactly.
You're restricting them from pressing you high up the park and winning the ball or getting a corner or worst case scenario losing a goal. I just don't understand why you'd invite pressure. Like I say, if you've got the players and the players that are fully comfortable on that ball, by all means play out when it's on to do so. But like you said tonight, Hart recognised a few times.
I think Hart recognised it. Yeah, I think he did, and that's down to experience, Barry. That he recognised that pass wasn't done.
Yeah, this is a guy that's got 70-odd caps for England. He's played in international tournaments. He knows when's the right time to play and when's not the right time.
What do you think of Hart and McCarthy signing, Barry?
Absolutely over the moon with the pair of them, Mark. Absolutely over. I think that's a statement signing for me. Mm-hmm. For me, without doubt, better than what we've got in terms of Joe Hart. I even gave me confidence for the game tonight. Just knowing that he.
I said that to my wife. I said that to her. I said, see, if you'd just seen Joe Hart's name on that, it gives you a wee bit more. Because was it panic station, whether it was Barkis or Bain? That's Mikey about it earlier. He's delighted about it as well. He's actually wisdom teeth took out the day, so he's no. For once, he'll have. He's went for be bunging the dentist to do more operations.
But yeah,
weird ties of same, but Joe Hart and McCarthy, and really, we need two players for £1 million.
Oh, you know what, Mark? I'm absolutely over the moon. You know what? I felt like a wee kid, to be honest with you, when they announced those signings. I honestly did. And you know what? Joe Hart, he's 34 years old, 3-year contract. I reckon he's got another good 5 years in him. Keepers.
He kept himself well. He's kept himself well, Barry.
Well, he'll be one of them we've spoke about that's kept his body in tip-top condition.
You could see his physique and that looks fantastic. He doesn't look like there's an ounce of fat on him. And, the McCarthy one as well, that they've really sort of put a lot of faith in him, giving him a 4-year contract. But you'll know yourself, Mark, from, he's playing at Hamilton. He's a guy that's a top player. And I seen a couple of days ago, Daily Mail breaking the story that, McCarthy had signed a 4-year deal. I actually refused to believe it until it was announced by Celtic. That's what the stage it's got to. But I was absolutely buzzing. And like I said, to give him a 4-year contract, again, he's only 30 years old. Mm-hmm. A young, fit guy. He's going to have a wealth. 10 years. They've both spent, 10 years plus in the English Premier League. So, they're only going to benefit the squad. And not only that, even the Joe Hart signing, that'll give the defence a lift as well. To have somebody like that behind them.
What you were saying about the corner, it was their very first corner of the game, Barry. By Barry, I noticed that he was bawling and shouting about in point.
Yeah.
But we've not
trying to organise.
No, and even at that, when he passed the ball out, I remember at one stage Hart passed the ball out to Zorro, and straight away he's shouting at Zorro to turn and pass. Do you know what I mean? Straight away he's shouting and giving Zorro directions, like making Zorro aware who's around him. Do you get me?
It'll be Zorro that drops out the team for McCarthy.
And I think it's needed because I said to you, Mark, in the last podcast when we had John on as well tonight, all that Celtic are lacking the players of Peter Grant, Neil Lennon or Alan Thompson or Scott Blount, a tough player. And McCarthy will bring that, a tough tackle. But the best thing about McCarthy, Barry, is that he'll time his tackles. Do you get me? He'd know when to go to ground. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what as well? He's a very clever guy in
exactly.
When he has to go and close down a player.
Exactly.
You reckon that he closes down space really well. A real good defensive midfield. I just think it's a terrific signing. I really do.
Because I remember when he was injured. When he was injured for Ireland, and the Irish country we have here, we have Liam Brady and the fella Eamon Dunphy here, and they were always screaming that, like, what does McCarthy do? Like, what's he do? But when McCarthy wasn't in the team, teams were just walking straight through our midfield area. Do you get me? There was no one there dictating the play. And McCarthy can pick out a pass as well. I think it's experience that he gave us, like, you know what I mean?
He's no just look at your kind of hatchet man defensive midfielder.
No.
McCarthy can play a bit. Do you know what?
Oh, definitely. The guy can, like you say, Paul. The guy can pick up a pass. Now
he'll be
can also get you a goal. Listen, he's probably not going to get. He's definitely got the potential, absolutely. And like I say, I'm not saying he's going to chip in with 10 goals, but he can grab 5-6 goals a season. It's not what we expect of him, but I'm absolutely buzzing about this signing. I really am. I wanted him. He's been linked for about 4 years every window, maybe even longer. And every one I used to pray that it came through. And I remember there was photos of him outside at Hampden with a fan. I've just bumped into James McCarthy and I was buzzing and I realised it was for 2 years before. The guy stitched everybody up. But every time, so like I say, when the Daily Mail broke the story that McCarthy's, I thought, no, I'm going to wait until it's official from the club. And within minutes it was. And like I say, I was like a kid on Christmas Day. I was loving the fact. I think it's a real statement signing the pair of them. I think that's going to give the squad a real boost.
Especially with our squad, Barry, being so young. And Mark said as well, like, these two lads spent 10, 15 years down the Premier League. Like, they're going to be that experience that they learn from top players in the Premier League as well, up to Celtic. And it's only a benefit to Celtic bringing these two lads in.
Well, McCarthy's played under Martinez. Right, well, the only thing wrong with Martinez is he can't organise a defence. But he's played under Martinez, played under Moyes. So even Roy Hodgson, who's a kind of defensive-minded coach, he's been down there playing with, no top teams, but decent...
Top managers.
Aye, good managers in that, especially like Moyes and Martinez. So he's been down there learning. I honestly think he could do as one of my shrewd signings Celtic's made in years. Both two of them, Hart and McCarthy.
Absolutely. And see McCarthy's career down south. It was on it. He made a massive impact. Like, obviously he moved from Hamilton down to Wigan. Then, excelled at Wigan, got his move to Everton. See, at Everton, I don't know if you guys remember, he was heavily linked with a big move to Arsenal because his performances.
Man United were scouting him and everything back then.
He'd one bad injury and people still think he's finished because that one bad injury. Like, McCarthy has played nearly every season, Barry, bar that season he got the bad injury. Do you know what I mean? Like, people aren't seeing that.
People will pick out things, but I think he played something like 36 games or something for Crystal Palace, or 36 appearances for Crystal Palace last season. So people can come up with the tag that, he's injury prone. For me, it's a lot of nonsense. I think you've made a stat before. He's missed less games than James Forrest for Celtic, So
the year wanted him to stay as well.
Don't get it was a really bad thing. It was a double leg break he got.
Yeah. I actually remember it against Newcastle. It's horrendous.
But he's been back and playing since then, so I don't... And for what... I mean, his 2 years at Newcastle, according to that transfer market site, according to that, his 2 years at Crystal Palace, he missed was 3 games. 3 games. Injury. No, I mean they've got the injury stats and things like that. So I don't know where this all comes from. His injury, bro.
I think sometimes when people pick up a bad injury, they just assume that they can't recover from it. They're going to be injured for the rest of their career. But people need to get away from that. This is a brilliant signing for Celtic. I'm confident.
Look at him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Look what he went on today.
Exactly. And it was a similar break he had.
It shows you as well, but we're even looking at these type of players. I've said it before. There's players doing the Premier League looking to kickstart their career, like Scott Sinclair did, like Alan Thompson, Chris Sutton done. So hopefully we're looking at more of these type of signings.
And it just goes to show as well, Mark, we've spoke about it before, you don't always have to go and pay big transfer fees to get quality in the door. There is guys out there out of contract, like McCarthy, like what we've done with Hart. It's a big statement from Hart as well, because I don't know what wages he was on at Tottenham, but I'd imagine he's taking a massive drop to come to Celtic just so he wants to play for the next 3 years. And it's a statement from him as well.
I said to Mikey earlier on when I was speaking to him, you can't tell me that Joe Hart didn't have offers down in England to be a number 2 again. And just...
Not at all.
There's even talk that Mourinho want him to go and be back up to
Roma.
Portugal keeper they've just signed, Rui Patricio or something he's called. They want him to go and be number 2.
So I said to Mark, what Mourinho came out, he congratulated him on the move and said that he's still the best English keeper that's in the Premier League at the moment. He said he's way above the likes of Pickford, freaking Henderson or Pope.
But as I said to Mike, when we were talking about it, I said to Mikey, well, maybe he's one of the players we've spoke about that's got to that age and thought, I'm sitting here, I'm mint it. Do I just want to sit here, be a number 2 and just get more money, or do I want to go to a club, a big club to one of the biggest in the
And I think one of the best things as well, Mark, is that
every week, play in Europe. Do you know what I mean? So for
yeah,
wage drop and everything, that's
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, you know, that just shows his commitment. Like that,
he's not here.
it's not about money. He's not here for money. He's here because he wants to play. And the way he spoke about Celtic too, like, you know what I mean? Like,
But he's
you
always
could see that.
kind of good to Celtic. Whenever he spoke about Celtic or came up against them and things like that, he's always spoke well about them. You know what I mean? He's always, I think maybe Celtic's his Scottish team. I'm not going to say that I know that for a fact, but maybe it is. And again, he's just thought, I'm just going to chance it up there for a few years.
Just looking at the live chat there, that Terrence is saying good result. Look, I think as Barry said, look, a result is a result. There was need for Celtic. We'll take it, but the same problems are there that we highlighted here are the same problems on the live chat. Like Beaton and Taylor just aren't good enough. Glasgow Green is saying the result could have been more if we took our chances, and that seems to be a bit of a problem.
Kyogo miss was a screamer, wasn't it? The one Kyogo missed.
Yeah, over the bar. And I think Turnbull's was a bad miss as well.
They're actually, Barry, he's a player who has kind of maybe not progressed out of Ange in the last couple of games. Like St. Turnbull, he seems to be lost his way or something.
You know what? I'd probably agree with that, Paul. Yeah, it pains me to say it because I know he's a
well, he's capable of, yeah, exactly.
I just think, you know, we're still very, very early in the season, you know, but I don't know, he's doing things now that, you know, losing possession, which he never did last season. He kind of carried the team a bit last season, so let's not forget that. But for me, he started a wee bit. I think the honeymoon period's over for Turnbull now.
Yes.
I think he's going to need to step up his game if he's going to want to keep his place in the team.
Right, mate, you'll not believe this. Do you know Turnbull's only played 79 professional games?
Well, there you go, less than 100 games.
He's only played 79 games and he's got 25 goals in them. So I mean he is 22. You'd expect him to have more games under his belt.
Obviously, the injury would have hampered and set him back about a year.
I've read that somewhere earlier, and I was amazed kind of idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What he was doing for a poor Celtic team last season, and then
he's not playing in the position that he's not used. Like, this is the position we were screaming for Tunnel to be playing in. Like, you know what I mean? In this position that Ryan Christie would have been played in, like, because Christie was kind of keeping Tunnel out of the squad early on the season down the middle, but he's really seems to be, and I don't know what it is. Is it down to maybe he's still getting the grips on Ange of fitness levels and up to the speed that Ange wants him at the moment, and Tunnel is just getting his fitness ready, Barry, do you think, or something like that?
I'm not sure, but you know what? I think Turnbull, obviously, he's technically fantastic. He's very, very gifted, but for me, he's a wee bit slow and a wee bit lightweight. And I think sometimes, you know,
even his shots, Barry, seem to be way more than before. Like, Turnbull's shots used to be on target or something like that. Like, you know what I mean?
You know what? I think, like I say, you know, especially against Hearts, he was getting dispossessed relatively easily, and he didn't really seem to have the speed to be able to get back and try and win the ball back. And I think, like, for me, it was a wee bit apparent on Saturday more than ever that I think our midfield looked a wee bit lightweight. You know, McGregor, Sorrow, and Turnbull. I thought to myself, I don't know if that's going to be a physical enough midfield to carry through the season. But obviously, since that, we've went and got McCarthy in there. But I think Turnbull, you know, I think he's just sort of fell away a wee bit. But the good thing is, you know, as we strengthen the squad, he's going to need to sort of up his performance. Because if he doesn't, there's a good chance he will have to put a wee spell on the sidelines, and there'll be people. It's only good for competition. There'll be people champing at the bit, you know, to get a start. You know, Ryan Christie, I don't know if he's like a matter of weeks away from leaving.
I actually want to comment there, actually, Christie, when Barry finishes there. What we kind of heard about Christie.
They asked for the same kind of money that Brown was on.
Yeah.
That was one of the problems. They asked for the same kind of money Brown was on, and Celtic board weren't even entertaining it. Just
All right. So is he interested in staying then, Mark? On the back of that,
I don't know. But this is getting back. Keep going by the timeline of this. Me and Paul put it together. This is when it seemed that he was going in the huff. Mind he wasn't celebrating goals and things like that.
Yeah.
Didn't it, Paul? All kind of that kind of time. So I think either unless he's opened the gate for mere transfer kind of negotiations, it was off with Celtic. And
because obviously. Yeah. He had his sort of, his dad saying that, he really wants to go to England. And I kind of thought that he had in his mind that he would use the Euros as a shop window. But it backfired dramatically because he only played 45 minutes for Scotland. So it might be a case that he thought there was going to be a lot of interest in him in the summer, and maybe the interest isn't there, or maybe the clubs that are interested have inquired aren't what he wants. He's maybe backtracking a wee bit, but we'll have to wait and see. But I mean,
because I said that to you about the other day.
Interest in him for England, his team's sniffing about him in that, but it's nothing really. I mean, it's like your, I was going to say Barnsley, you're like Burnley's, Crystal Palace, and I think Southampton were, but I think they've stepped back for it kind of thing. So
your lower Premiership league clubs, basically.
I said before, well, look at Ayer. Ayer's not going to be at Brentford next summer. Especially if they get relegated, do you know what I mean? Because he'll be down there to catch the eye of a bigger club and get a step up. But I think Christie expected to maybe get like a kind of Kieran Tierney type move or that.
I mean, you know what I would say as a sort of praise of Christie? Like, I think he's shown a good attitude since the season started.
Yes.
I know it's only
definitely
games in.
And we gave him stick, exactly.
Look at that in contrast to Edward, who started the season exactly the same way he played last year, like uninterested.
Contrast to Christie last season.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's changed.
See if Christie decided to stay and signed a new contract and that, it'd be a great move for Celtic. Do you know what I mean? Because Christie on his game, I mean, don't get us wrong, his shooting was a bit woeful, but we've spoke about that before. Did Neil Lennon just ask Christie to do the job that Chris Commons done for him? As soon as you get the ball, shoot. Because he's playing with Ange, he's not doing that as much under Ange.
No, and he seems to be passing the ball more as well, Mark, and even tracking back. You see Christie tracking back that we didn't see of him.
I mean, it was meant to be that it was in 15 grand a week, and they offered him 18. And he wanted like the 30, the kind of money Scott Brown and McGregor and that are getting, but Celtic said no. But I think Christie's a good enough player to warrant more than 18 grand. Do you get what I mean? We know what he can do when he's on his game.
Yeah, I agree, man, absolutely. And I think as well that there's sort of lesser risk that he would actually perform. You know, look at Edward. I think every fan to a man, I said, we don't want him in the team. We know what he's going to do. He's not going to show an interest. I don't think Christie falls into that bracket. I think if things were to turn around for Christie, he would, excel again like he did. Whereas, like I say, Edward, for me, he's no interest. He just wants out the door.
He even offered nothing when he came out today, Barry. Edward, he offered nothing when he came on again today.
Exactly, and that's how, see, when the team got released and I seen it was Kyogo up top, I think every Celtic fan was delighted. I don't think there was anybody, I very much doubt there was any Celtic fan said, why is Edward not playing? Everybody was delighted because they know what he offers just now. And everyone said that, if he's not interested, we need to get him rid. JFP mentioned, he should have been gone at the start of summer. I think I said on a podcast before the season finished, Paul, to you, for me, I would have sold Edward at the start of the summer, at the end, because you want to go forward and progress with the players that want to be there. And if he doesn't want to be there, you didn't really want him in pre-season and playing these early Champions League qualifiers because you'll get the effort what we got, which was nothing. Well, and again, when he came on, he didn't really seem interested.
Celtic set their price, and until somebody meets that price, he's not going anywhere.
So, what happened? What happened with Leicester, Mark? Because by all accounts, say that it was quite close to happening, and then for all of a sudden, the plug got pulled for whatever reason. I don't even know what happened with that one.
I'm not. There's something about they called it a Brendan Rodgers tax, that Mark, or something like that. What this?
I think they were wanting more money off of Leicester than they were wanting off everybody else.
Ah, right, okay. Because that one looked like it was close, but then obviously it fell through.
Well, Edward didn't fancy moving to West Ham because he wasn't going to be first choice. I think that's what put the kibosh on that. Was it Antonio he's called, Paul? We were talking.
Yeah, Antonio, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So Edward would be second choice, so he wasn't wearing that. But there is, I mean, see what all this, your Brightner said, I've never even spoke about Edward and that. That's just playing the PR game. Brighton spoke to Celtic about Edward a few times. And I think it's just, this is just my opinion, I think Celtic's waiting for like 20 million. That's their price until somebody, whether it's, they're not interested in this 18.5 million and then another 2 million if they stay in the Premier League and things like that. They want 20 million in their bank before they even talk to anybody about it.
My thing about this issue, and it's good that we're talking about because the next part is we were all saying that we wanted Edward to be dropped in, and we welcomed that news today, and Fukuhashi got the nod up front. Where does this leave a Yesi, do you think, Barry, within the Celtic squad? Do you think maybe he's not a part of Ange's plans going forward, that he hasn't been starting any games now or anything like that?
You know what, Paul? It's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Because right at the very start, when you sort of pre-season began, and you were seeing pictures. He looked like he shifted a good couple of stone. So you're thinking to yourself, maybe he's turned the corner. And then they play the first pre-season friends. Yet he's captain. He scores in the first two. Yeah. And then, I mean, he's not now. So I don't know. For me, looking at both parties, it's probably best if he moves on, to be perfectly honest, because even Saturday we're chasing a goal, 2-1 down. Well, not 2-1 down. Sorry, it was 2-1 down late in injury time. But when we're pushing for a goal, it's Rogic that comes on. So if you're a Yeti, you're sitting there, you're thinking, I'm clearly not even close to being in Ange's plans. It might be. I think Mark, you'd said, they were looking to move him on earlier in the winter before. Sort of, and when Ange first came in, his agent was trying to get him a move.
It's why Lennon was here and we didn't know who was
manager,
and that his agent was looking for a move.
Do you think maybe something happened between the Yesi and the whole backroom staff last season, and maybe that's continued on to this season with John Kennedy and Gavin Strachan, that they had a thought? No, but I'm just saying it like that. But did his attitude maybe come in again to this season? Like, maybe there was an attitude there by Yesi, and
I'm going to get a signed John Kennedy picture for you, Paul, for your car.
I'd burn it. But I'm just saying it, like, do you think maybe there actually is an attitude problem there with Yesi, and that maybe Ange actually saw that now as well? Like, you know what I mean? Because it is a strange one here, like that he's not playing, like, It
could be, but again, why play him and pick him as captain? He must have seen.
That's it, like.
If he's stinking at it's true.
And he's never
seen that before that.
Yeah, he's never really featured at all. Like I say, you would think to yourself, 1-1 at Hearts. You're pushing for a win. You want to get off to that good start. You've got a striker on the bench, but like I say, he calls upon Rogic.
Even the Midtjylland game, Barry, he kept Edouard on the full extra time, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it could very well be, Paul, that Ayeti knows that his time at the club's number, but Celtic can't really sell him just now because up until Kyogo, we've only had sort of Edouard as a fit striker and Ayeti. Obviously, Klamala's gone, we've never replaced him, and Griffiths is no fit. So it could be that we're just in a position where we can't really afford to let him go in case something happens to Edouard or, whatever it may be. But it doesn't look good for Ayeti. It really doesn't, that he's not getting any sort of game time whatsoever. For me, that maybe tells you that his days at Celtic are numbered.
Was he on the bench today? Aye.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Was he on the bench? Was he?
On the bench, yeah, but again, like, he still didn't even.
I didn't get.
It was Edouard that came on, like, so, like, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
I mean, how long going to take? Somebody said that in the live chat. How long's this romance between Ange and Rogic going to last until he realises that Rogic isn't? I mean,
see, that's it. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, Rogic's not going to last the full season. Bison's not going to last the full season. Do you know what I mean? There's no doubt about that. Like,
does Rogic still play for Australia? Or is he retired? I know he.
Well, I know he turned down any internationals this year. Anyway, he turned them down. It's actually till this year anyway, because I know they do some qualifiers in January as well. Like, so maybe he'll go back now in January. Mark, we'll have to see, won't we? Yeah.
Even at that, see with Rogic injury history and his age and everything, he's wanted to just retire for international.
If you want, exactly. If you want concentrate his club football, if he wants to progress, he said the career.
I don't see how he can progress his Celtic career. Do you know what I mean? That's see, if it was the Ange that came in as manager, I don't think Rogic would have been here. I think.
No, and again, I was going to say again, Mark. There's no way Rogic is going to hold down a Celtic position. No matter where it is, he's not going to play 40, 50 games this season. He's not going to start, half of those. He's going to be, if he continues his Celtic career, he's going to be a bit part player, a guy who comes on for 10, 15 minutes, or a guy that maybe comes in if somebody's needing a rest or is injured. But there's no way he's going to hold down a position in that Celtic team, especially as Ange has made it clear that he's wanting to play a high press, sort of fast game. That doesn't fit into Rodgers' sort of makeup.
But Roger doesn't even do something special that the three of us talked on a podcast, that the one player who would do something special in a game, like we all said Roger was a cup man, he did something special in the cup, but he doesn't even do a special pass anymore or anything like that, you know what I mean? He loses the ball more time than he actually has it now, Roger, you know what I mean? He's another player that's actually taken up a place in our squad, like Bison,
I mean, he's not going to get any better. Right, he's lost a bit of weight in that, but in general, do you know what? I'm no fitness expert, but he's not all of a sudden going to become a kind of guy that can run about a park for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Not at his age now. So I agree with you, Paul. He's just, for me, he's in the same bracket as Beaton. He's just in some kind of comfort zone, quite happy to plod on whenever he. Do you know what I mean? Just not even. I mean, they're not even pushing for first team places.
No.
I don't see when they are getting these chances. I mean, Beaton's not shown anything that's why on the field why he should start before Welsh. See,
exactly, he don't even change the game. Feel like, do you know what I mean?
Beaton was coming in and playing well. You would be like,
exactly.
Fair dues, but he's no. See if Rogic was coming on as a sub and starting to ping the passes about and a wee dribbles and he shimmies about the box and that like he used to do in the odd wee wonder goal. You'd be like, oh, well, fair dues, he's doing well. So keep him and bring him on for the last 20 minutes and things like that. But he's not even doing anything like that.
No.
I think anything. They're just not offering anything to the team. I'm making up the numbers. That's basically all they're doing.
That's what it is. I mean, he doesn't even if anything, if you're bringing on Roger, you're going to expect the pace of the game to slow down. Do you know what I mean? And he's going to slow it down by him receiving the ball and him passing it as well,
Yeah. I mean, even when he drives forward with the ball, it's not exactly a sprint, it's kind of just a bit of a canter, when he's driving forward into space. It's a wee bit strange because, we've spoken about Beaton, we're speaking about Rogic. Now, it seems that these guys, and somebody mentioned it earlier, it seems that they're quite content just to be bit players in the squad. They're happy just to pick up their wage and play a handful of games and not really be important players within the squad. That's strange to me. I respect players more that.
Even a lifestyle in Scotland, being a Celtic player, gives you, mate, Barry. Do you know what I mean? That's even probably part of it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
any chance?
It used to be days gone by that you'd be furious if you weren't playing, or you'd be disappointed, and you'd do something about it. You'd either buck up your ideas, or you'd be in speaking to the manager saying, "Well, what do I need to do to get a game here?" But
they don't even seem to be doing that.
These guys, I just feel like, you know what? I'm quite happy to sit on a bench and get the last 15 minutes and pick up a win bonus. I don't know. It's just all a bit strange to me. But yeah, for me, I can't see. I agree with you guys. I can't see how guys like Rogic and Beaton are going to have any sort of impact on the squad, especially if we look to recruit and strengthen further, in these areas. There's no doubt in my mind a centre half will be coming soon, so that would put Beaton further down the pecking order. There's no way he should be even close to getting a game in the midfield. But, it looks like if he's under contract, it looks like he's going to be here. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, I guess.
Barry hit the nail on the head there, but Mark, these fellas are happy to take a wage, and the chunk of the chunk of the wage that those two lads, I say those two lads are one of our top orders at the club. Mark, I say himself and Beaton.
They'll be up there, the good earnings anyway. But Barry will know that's better than me. He's played the game, right? But see if you're a young player getting to your 19, 20, 21. And then when you're getting older, maybe getting into your 30s, you want to be playing every week. When you're a young player, you're hungry to play every week.
Yeah.
But even doing the youthfulness, just want to play football every week. But if you're playing for an actual professional team or any kind of team, you want to be playing every week at that age. And then when you get older, you realise, here, I've not got a many year left playing, so I want to start playing every week.
Absolutely 100%.
Aye, I mean, that
And
takes
that's
common sense, Barry.
and you know what, Mark, I'm not going to speak too much about myself, but I mentioned it when I first came on here. You know, when I did get, you know, broke into Dundee first team and got, I think, like I say, I played about 15 games, but I was never a consistent player. You know, I was never playing week in, week out. At that point, there came a point where I said, I need to go out. And like I said, it was me that went and asked to go out on loan. I want to go out, and I got the move to Haaland because I didn't want to, you know, play 1 week and then miss the next 3, or get on for 20 minutes for 2 games and then be out. That was no use to me. Like you say, a young player, you're just desperate to play football, and spot on at the end of your career, you know that there's no many years left. You think, well, if I'm not going to sit here, I want to enjoy the last couple of years of my footballing career. I need to go somewhere where I'm going to play. I don't know. Maybe that's gone out the game, Mark. I don't know.
I was just going to say, I think that's what Joe Hart and McCarthy's looked at.
Absolutely.
They could have stayed in England, they could have got moved probably abroad or whatever, but they've decided so. But they were never going to be maybe first choice kind of thing, or just backup, or scrape my boot trying to avoid relegation in the Champions promotion for the Championship or things like that. So I think they've maybe thought of that and just thought their age. I've played that many games over the last few seasons, kind of idea. We've got a chance to win trophies, play every week in front of 60,000 fans, and to me that's a good thing.
And you know what else for me, Mark? It shows to me that Celtic are still a club that can attract good players.
Exactly.
We spoke about it in previous podcasts. Celtic are a big club that it's a big pool for certain individuals. Listen, we're not going to go in the high end of the European markets and sign quality players, but it just shows you, there's, like I said, Joe Hart, he's only 34 for a keeper. I mean, I think he's about the same age as Foster. Everybody would have bit your hand off to Foster back a couple of seasons ago. You know, he's the same as, so he's not by any means over the hill for a goalkeeper. And James McCarthy, 30-year-old, again, another guy that I reckon would have had Premiership interest. There was talk in Newcastle were heavily interested, whether that's true or not. So, and you know, he's chose to come to Celtic. So it just shows you as well, we're a big pool for certain individuals to come and play at the football club.
It's all about timing. I mean, see, really half the battle with transfers and things like that are timing. Just that, like, just seem to like fall into place at the one time when something works. No, I mean, a lot of it comes down to, I suppose, a bit of luck when you're trying to get players like the calibre of Joe Hart and McCarthy that in. But for us to spend £1 million, and Joe Hart and James McCarthy is just brilliant piece of business. It really is.
Great business, really good business.
Especially the experience that these two lads are, and we spoke about Barry.
I think the experience the two of them will bring into that team.
What I do like is
immediately. No, I mean, settling in.
I constantly said that we're lacking leaders to maybe to help Callum McGregor, Barry, and these two fellas will certainly help him on the pitch as well as being two vocal leaders, as well as Callum to have, because at the moment, and you saw it against Hearts, we were bullied. There was no leaders on the pitch against Hearts.
Yeah,
there was no one there, and that's what these fellas will come in and give Callum that help that he needs as well as captain. You know.
Absolutely, and not just as captain, but as his performances. I think will get better as well, McGregor, because I think, like I say, it was kind of evident on Saturday that McGregor was the main man in there besides Sorrow and Turnbull, and like you say, a bit lightweight, and it was like the whole onus was on Callum McGregor. He had the sort of weight of the team. He was having to carry the team, or certainly looked like he was anyway. But to have somebody like that, McCarthy in there. And like you say, to have Joe Hart, there's over 100 international caps between them. 20 years worth of Premier League experience, and quality as well. These are quality players.
That's what I'm saying.
They're going to really develop, and they're going to let McGregor get back to the player he was as well. And I think there'll be more on the way. There's no doubt in my mind. There's going to be plenty of players coming in. And said himself, this isn't the end of it.
I was just reading there when the two of you were talking. I was kind of reading into Ange's kind of pre-match conference and stuff, and he was saying that he still knows that Ange recognised himself that he said we're too light on the back line. He says there will be reinforcements coming in. I can't give you Thailand because transfers are complicated now to get deals done. And look, we spoke of all those reasons, Mark, the Brexit, the COVID pandemic, quarantine, stuff like that. But the signings will come, and that's nothing about. But going back to the leadership, like I know we knew his legs were gone and stuff like that, but we really missed the presence of someone like Scott Brown within that Celtic team. Yeah,
influence him. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but even around the dressing room, Mark, or something like that for these young lads who will get bullied on the park. They will get, you know.
I mean, Joe Hart will maybe be one of the oldest guys in the dressing room now.
Yeah.
Years of experience.
And he won't let these young defenders be bullied. And that's one thing I give credit to her. He won't let that big 6 foot tall defender bully his Hart will only guide these young players how to deal with these players. You know what I mean?
Joe Hart and McCarthy will be big voices in the dressing room. Do you know what I mean? They'll make their presence felt. They'll know what's. Along with McGregor, will make sure everybody knows what's expected as being a Celtic player. McCarthy knows what's expected to be a Celtic player. He knows what it means to be a Celtic fan. Joe Hart's coming in here, years of experience at top clubs. He's bringing in professionalism, another level, another guy that's not going to take any nonsense. He's going to ball and shout at them on the park, but he'll keep them right. It's the experience that the guys bring in. That's a big bonus. Apart from their ability, the experience that Joe Hart and McCarthy bring in is a massive bonus to that young team we've got.
Going by Cal McGregor, we're seeing Barry, because we haven't spoken, in a while. We're actually seeing the best of Cal McGregor since he's not actually sitting back trying to cover Scott Brown as well. That we're seeing him go forward. We're seeing him score the goals that we know Cal McGregor can score, and it'll only get better for him when we have a player like James McCarthy in that midfield.
Absolutely, and I think Cal McGregor played his best football, when there was good players in and around him. You're talking about guys like, Scott Brown, Stuart Armstrong, Scott Sinclair, Patrick Roberts. Cal McGregor thrived when he was part of that quality midfield. I think, because of the natural way that the football's happened with the club and stuff, Sorrow's a sort of young undiscovered talent. Turnbull's a young lad. There's been a big onus on Callum McGregor to be the main focus. I think if you could get in guys like McCarthy and whoever else may come in, whether, I don't know if Christie's going to stay there, but Christie is a good player. The more quality players in and around McGregor, the best you always see in him. And I think, like I say, if we get, good players in and around McGregor, you're going to get the Callum McGregor that you had a couple of seasons ago and one that you had for 3 or 4 seasons behind, the one that was winning awards and scoring goals galore. He's now the captain. He's now the the vocal point of the squad. But like we were just speaking there, guys like McCarthy, Joe Hart, and whoever else comes in, they're going to be big voices, big personalities, and that's only going to help McGregor. It's going to take not the weight off him, but he's the captain of the club now, and to have these experienced and quality players in and around him.
So for him to lead a shoulder on as well, Barry, do you know what I mean? Like if something needs to be sorted like that, Cal McGregor can go to these senior players as well. Look, lads, what do you think here? Like, what do you think should be the situation here? What should I do here? And like these fellas are only going to be there. Like James McCarthy captained the Irish football team. Do you know what I mean? Hart captained Man City on his day when he was playing there. He was captain for Manchester City. He was captain for England on numerous occasions. Like these are captains in their own right. Like they don't have to wear the armband, but they're captains in their own right.
Yeah, absolutely. They're leaders. These are guys with a wealth of experience at every level of the game. McCarthy's played at the highest level in Scotland, England, international. Same with Joe Hart. He's won the Premier League. He's played Champions League football. He's 70 plus caps for England. These are wealth of experience.
Cups and everything, isn't he, Joe Hart?
Cups and Euros. He's played at every level of the game. So, naturally, as a captain, Callum McGregor's going to. Normally, what you have in dressing rooms is you have like a leadership group. It's not just the captain. You've normally got 5 or 6 players within, a playing group or a playing staff. I think they call them a leadership group. I would imagine guys like Joe Hart and James McCarthy would be fed right into that. I'd imagine they'd drop right in, they would fall right in that bracket because, like you say, Paul, why wouldn't they lean on that experience? You know what? Given that he's sort of the personality, I don't know.
I think he would be, yeah.
I get that he's got the experience and stuff like that, but you know, for me, as Rogic, somebody you're going to go to if you're in a hole or you're needing advice or you're putting ideas against each other. I don't know if Rogic would be. James Forrest would be for me. I know he's maybe he's not a guy who's vocal, but he's a guy that's got a wealth of experience. Again, Scotland Champions League. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, it's all different sort of people that you have in these groups, but mostly guys with experience. And like I say, for me, Hart and McCarthy, they fit the bill down to a T.
What about Cahill? Would you bring in Cahill if we could?
It's funny you should say that. I got a text from my mate probably about 10 minutes before I came in, and I would take him in a heartbeat.
I would, yeah. I would.
You
I
know?
think that's your spine then sorted, Barry. You've Hart, Cahill, McCarthy, and Cal McGregor there, and then another tough top-class striker.
Oh, yeah, and you know, a guy that, loves defending. Cahill's just an out-and-out defender. He's not going, he's not blessed with great pace. He never was throughout his career. But
we want a defender who can read the game. Do you know what I mean?
He'll win his tackle, he'll go and attack the ball.
What Duffy was going to do.
Exactly. That was
Duffy was going to be like.
It just never worked out for Duffy, unfortunately. But Mark, has he been linked with us, or is that just fans sort of saying this guy's free?
I think it's a bit of bait. To be honest, I'm not sure. I know that it was linked with Rangers a bit, but I think really.
Right. Okay.
I'll try and find out. I know somebody.
I wasn't sure if he'd been linked because I've never seen a story, but I know a lot of people are saying, it's a no-brainer because he's out of contract. He's exactly what we're looking for.
And plus, as well, like he's coming in where he already knows Joe Hart. He played with. He didn't play with Joe Hart. He played with Chelsea, Cahill, sorry, but he would have played Joe Hart at international level. He played with James McCarthy at Crystal Palace.
Level, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I know what, again, a guy with a wealth of experience.
Yeah.
He's done it. I'd imagine he's been in international tournaments as well. He's played Champions
League. Because that's what it is.
Premier League football for 10-15 years.
We all want our young players, our young players now are given a plan, we say. But yeah, he'll have a plan for them. He'll give them game time. But as well as that, you want experienced players around these young lads as well. You know what I mean?
You want to sign players that are going to progress and be worth millions in years to come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You still need players for the here and now. Whether it's
exactly.
I mean,
years, it doesn't matter.
And that'll give Welch then the experience that he needs on Jane Murray. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was about to say that, Paul. Think of the experience and development of Welsh and Dane Murray, having somebody like Gary Cahill, nurturing them along, helping them out. Because that's what these players do when they come in.
Behind them, do you know what I mean?
So hard behind, and like I said, and right from the outstart, the confidence that they'll get playing next to these guys. No disrespect, I'm not. But could you imagine Stephen Welsh being overly confident playing next to Near Beaton, or Dave Murray playing next to Near Beaton? You're not thinking it's calling them with confidence.
What I noticed last week, and I noticed as well today, Starfelt last week against Hearts was pushing out into the left hand side to cover Taylor, and today then he looked like that he was nearly covering Beaton because Beaton was out of position because Beaton didn't have the pace to get back. So Starfelt will only work better if he has a proper defender next to him, and until he gets that really right, we're not going to form a proper relationship in the centre back line till we get a proper. Maybe if it's not Welch, but we certainly do need a solid centre back there,
Absolutely, and I personally, Welsh. I mean, we've all waxed lyrical about Welsh, and he really has done well since he's come in. But again, for me, he's not a starter in the Celtic side yet.
Still young,
I'm happy with him to be a backup and, like I say, come in when necessary. But for me, Starfelt will be a starter, and whoever else comes in, we don't know who it's going to be. If it's a Cahill, or we've been linked to a number of other ones. And like you say, it's going to take time for them to forge a relationship. But the more games they play together, the stronger they'll become. So if it was a Gary Cahill, for me, that's an ideal candidate to come in because he's not only your sort of young Murrays and Welsh, he's also going to help develop Starfelt, as is Joe Hart.
Yeah.
So, if and when these guys come in, whoever it may be, the team's only going to progress as the games go by. And like you say, Paul, relationships will be forged, partnerships will be forged. They'll kind of build up an understanding of each other and where they should be and where they need each other to be. And that's just natural with any sort of centre-back pairing or pairing on any part of the pitch.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can even see the now for what we've seen for last season. Deanne's been in here for just over a month or whatever. It is night and day. Even
Oh God, yeah.
it is. It's night and day for even the performances, the way we're playing, the way players are even running, like trying a bit better and things like that. It's totally night and day for what we were watching last.
Oh,
So
and
you've got to see,
even that game on Saturday.
there's still a lot to go, Barry. No, I mean that's what I'm saying. There's a lot to go. I'm saying, wait till this window's shut.
Yeah,
But we would have had Hearts put to bed if we had an Edward who would have made an effort for Celtic.
You know something, Paul? That's what I was about to say. By no means did I think we played well against Hearts, but we had more than enough to win that game.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, what was it, 70-odd% possession? We didn't have that cutting edge up front, and that was largely part of the fact that Edward wasn't willing to sort of make runs or put up a fight or look to show any sort of interest. But whilst I didn't think it was a great performance, we still had more than enough to win that game. And like you say, Paul, once this transfer, it was yourself, Mark, that said it. Once this transfer window slams shut and Ange's got all the players that he wants, or the players that he wants to fit in his system, then you're going to start to see the best of Celtic. Then you're going to start to see the team progress, and hopefully on the back of that, the results will come, and we'll really start to see a really good, attractive Celtic team again.
I think that there's one player that I have to signal out today, and look, he is Celtic man through and through. He's never really kind of asked for a move or thing, as far as I know. Like James Forrest, again, lads, was 101, I think, continental appearance he made for Celtic. Is that 13 or 14 goals now he scored for Celtic in Europe? And what's your thoughts on him playing on the left-hand side due to his non-position on the right? What's your thoughts on that?
I think...
What's that, Mark? Sorry?
Sorry. I'd rather he played in the right.
Yeah.
I gave Forrest pelters for years, and it was just over the last couple of years, and Kev 83 that we moan and get for the forum that kind of made me look at him a bit a different way, and just he never really dominates much of a game, but see when you look at the goals and assists he's gave us over the years, you can't fault the guy, but
no,
I don't like him out on the left, and I don't think, see if he doesn't pull up his socks a bit, I don't know if Ange fancies Forrest at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, man. I think he's more effective on the right. I think his game's suited to playing on the right. He likes to come in. I think he's a wee bit less effective, but I think what you're right in saying is, Matt, if we do bring in the boy Lovrich, I get his name's been mentioned again today, I think you might struggle. I think James Forrest might not play as big a part as what he and others might think, because I can see Abada being a certain star.
Yeah, definitely.
The signs for that kid are really promising. He looks like an exciting player, a player that, every time he gets the ball, I kind of feel like, something can happen here. And if we go and spend money on Lovrich to play on the left, meaning Kyogo, I'll go through the middle, it might be that Forrest, we don't see as much as him as what he might think.
Well, one of the things as well is Forrest, he played some of his best football when Paddy Roberts was here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's somebody nipping at his heels. He'll up his game a bit. Back to kind of Forrest that everybody kind of raves about. I mean, he was for a couple of seasons there, he was a great player for us, but he's been back a while and then he was injured and things like that.
But you know what, man? You said it earlier. You can't argue. He's not. I think I didn't actually know this, but I heard the commentator saying that was his 93rd goal for Celtic, and also he's got 90 odd assists. There's almost 200 goal contributions in his Celtic career. That's massive. That's really impressive numbers, I must admit. But we'll see what happens. Like you say, a manager comes in, and if you don't play a certain way, or like I say, you've got Abada in there who's really started his career well. Although
let's talk about Abada, Barry. It's been a long time since since Patrick Roberts when he first came to us on the Brendan Rodgers. That Celtic have really seen a player who's not afraid to take on defenders. He knows his ability. He knows he's going to outrun defenders. Like Celtic haven't had a player like Barra for a long time.
No, I'd agree with that, Paul. You know what? He seems very direct. He seems like just an old-fashioned winger. He stays very wide, very close to the touchline, and when he gets that ball, his first thought is, I'm going to go at this defender. But he's also, you can tell the guy's going to score a lot of goals. He's going to score a lot of goals for the club. He's not afraid to get a shot away. He's very instinctive. I thought, his goal that he scored today, kind of similar to the one against Mitchell in the sense that he took up that position. I think early signs, don't want to get too carried away, but for me the signs are very promising. Like you say, we've not had a player like this in a long time, a guy that just gets the ball, faces up a full-back and says, I'm going to take you on, whether it be on the inside.
It's something that we really missed, Barry. Do you know, someone who would run down to the byline and who's able to use any foot to put a cross in, like, you know what I mean?
A full-back's nightmare, Paul. There's nothing worse. A full-back dreads going up against a guy with pace that's willing to face you up and take you on. And, that, like you say, we've not had that. And, we had kind of El Yunusi last year who played out on the left, and it wasn't his game. Whilst he was a decent player, he wasn't the one, he didn't have the pace to sort of go and face up the field. He had to take up other positions on the park to be sort of beneficial.
That's why I think Forrest might struggle, is the way Ange plays like that. He likes his wingers to get down to the byline as well and kind of put balls into the box. Like, Forrest isn't going to do that for
Paul, I think he's got it in his game to do that. I don't think he really wants to. I think Forrest, he is more beneficial. I said this on the right, kind of agreeing with Mark, because I think he likes to come in and link up with strikers and get shots away that way. Whereas Ange just come out blatantly and said, before a training session was had, he likes his wingers to be direct, get to the byline, put a cross into the box. That's what he's expecting his wingers. And that's, for me, that's what Abad will do that, not a problem. He'll do that all day, every day. Forrest, if he, like you say, if he's going to play in Ange's team, it might be that he has to adapt his game slightly. And rather than be the player who, wants to come in, link up, get shots away, create goals, he might have to think, well, you know what? Because he has got pace. He has got it in his...
That's it, like, do you know what I mean? Forrest on his day could be one of the fastest players in Scotland, Harry.
It's predictable what he does.
Yeah.
He's always looking to come, no matter what side he's playing on, he always looks to come inside. And see what you're saying, Barry? I think Ange would rather people at the full-back doesn't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
One thing, Mark, I did notice,
because that's what Abada does. You could see he can easily knock it by you and whip across in the box, or he's coming inside and getting a shot away.
As soon as the ball goes to Forrest, whatever side he's on, he's cutting inside.
Yeah. One thing I noticed too is that the attackers who aren't signed, Kyogo and Adabada, that they can use any foot and they can play any. Forrest really only has one foot, but these lads are comfortable on any foot. Like, so, like, they can play any side, like, do you know what I mean?
But just any of the three positions up front.
We were saying that, Mark. We were saying that, like that.
I'll pull them
on into the game, like
defense.
I'm marking Arda just from the start. Arda then might start down the other side. Like, do you know what I mean? It gives us different options that these fellas can play in different positions. Like, which for me is something great that we have so versatile strike force for this season.
Because I think Abada can play through the middle as well.
Yeah,
I think he's done that when he was in Israel. So
he can play as a false number 10
as
a false number 10 as well. He can. Yeah, the same with the Kyogo. He's actually comfortable on any position across the forward line. Do you know what I mean? Like these are players like that. Like if Edward was on his game, if he turned up, like. These players would get him 20, 30 goals a season, 40 goals a season, no problem, like, didn't they? Well,
he got 20 odd goals last season, so that's not, right. No, I know what you're saying. He would, be thriving off it.
Thriving on it, yeah, exactly.
The kind of service these guys will provide.
Let's talk about,
well, somebody else will thrive off them.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it.
Let's talk about our Japanese lad, Fugohashi. Like, I know it's only his first game, but he looks like he'd run all day if you Barry. Like he won't, and that comes from all kind of Japanese or Asian players. Like they will run all day and they don't seem to tire. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I mean, he certainly looks that style. You know, he looks like a very, intelligent, clever player. Looks very comfortable on the ball. But what probably most impressed me about him today was his movement up front.
Yeah.
He never stood still.
No.
And look at his goal. He drifts in between the two centre halves. He gets it. It's a great first touch and a beautiful little dink over the keeper. But like I say, his goal apart, his actual movement, his willingness to work. Like I say. Defenders, like what Edward's been doing, defenders will lap it up all day if you're just going to stand in one position.
Yeah.
You're not really going to move fast or, going behind. He had a bit of everything today. He was willing to run in behind defenders. He was dropping into space. He was dropping into the middle of them. He was coming short and taking touches.
He was chasing them.
Yeah, he was willing to chase, to try. And he did something a wee bit similar at Hearts a couple of times. I think, granted, he maybe gave the ball away, but he wasn't prepared as to think, oh, well, a midfielder will bail me out. He went back and chased it. But again, another, like we say, he's not even been in the country a week. This was only his first competitive start for the club.
And for a guy who has no English because he used the interpreter in the interviews, Mark, like, there seems to be no kind of problem with communication there with him between the players. You know what I mean? He seems to be well able to know what the players want him to do and stuff like that as well. Like,
I know it's a bit of a cliche, but football it's like a universal.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're a good football player, you can drop into any team and have put in a decent performance. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. But I thought
that's just what you just hit it there, Mark. Like, if you're a decent footballer, you should be able to fit into any team. Like, and that just shows what we've signed in the last couple of days between Abada and Kyogo, like, that we signed decent players who actually don't need 2-3 weeks to settle into the team. Like, you know what I mean?
Aye, spot on, Paul. We've said it before than that. But at the stage, we've spoke about it on it.
Not a long time, yeah.
The thing about like the backroom staff and that, even Ange came out and said he wasn't interested in all that. We'll deal with that with the windows closed. Said it the other week, Celtic's got to concentrate with stuff that's getting on the park, So
exactly.
I mean, the first team, that's Celtic's priority, and that's what Ange seems to be pushing on me, sir.
Like, there seems to be no problem at the moment of what we see today. Like, that there's goals in the squad. Like, but the main concern again, like, till it gets sorted, mostly is just the defence.
Oh, my mic cut off there. What was it we were talking about there?
Kyogo, that we've signed all these decent players, and like our front line seems to be settled in fine. It's just on the other half really that is the next part of Ange's project, and once he gets that, Mark, as Barry said, like, we should be seeing all systems go by Ange. There's no excuses then why we can't see Celtic playing the way Ange plays,
No, I said earlier, once he gets the players in that he wants, because we've said it, we need defenders. And we know we're chasing defenders, we're trying to sign defenders. So just wait till the window's shut, see what the squad's like. And even the players that are there now, they'll still be getting better and more used to working with Ange as the weeks pass.
And you can see that, can't you? That the players are actually getting better, yeah.
That's what I was going to say there when my mic cut off, Paul. But I said that before, we need to sign some players that are just going to hit the ground running.
Yeah, exactly.
Done that. Joe Hart, McCarthy, even with Kyogo and Abada, we didn't expect them even of the influence they've had in the games they've played. For me, they've hit the ground running. We know Joe Hart, and again, after with their experience, they'll hit the ground running. And that's what Celtic need, they know.
Just going by, we can presume now that Joe Hart is going to be the number one. Ross Doohan is gone down to Tranmere on a season loan. I don't know what the situation with Hazard is at the moment. Like, he wasn't on the bench again, but I know Dundee were looking at him again, weren't they? That they were kind of wanting him on. Do Celtic maybe do we sell Barry either Bain or Barkas now, or what do you think?
It wouldn't surprise me to see one of them leaving the club. I don't know if it'll be permanently or on loan, but I think when you've, like I say, there's absolutely no doubt that Joe Hart's going to be the number one.
Yeah.
Which leaves you with Bain, Barkas and Hazard. That's too many keepers to have at a club.
Yeah.
And like we were touching on earlier, if there's guys who aren't going to play. And I don't like, for me, maybe Skpe, he was quite happy to come in as a sort of number 2 to originally, I think it was Gordon, then Foster. It might be that he's happy to play second fiddle to Hart. And Barkas, I know there's been talk of Barkas going out on loan, going back to Greece, etc. But I don't think you'll see all 4 keepers still at the club by the end of the window. I think you'll see at least one of them away in some capacity.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that, Mark? Yeah.
Well, I think the ideal scenario for everybody would be Barkas. Mikey about this earlier as well. Barkas going out on loan back to Greece with an option to buy, and trying to use Bain as some kind of make weight to get that Siegrist in. For me, I mean, again, it's just common sense. Whether Celtic's even looking at Siegrist, you don't know. But I wouldn't be comfortable with Barkas going out on loan, Bain being. I wouldn't be comfortable with any of the 2 being more backup, because I mean, Joe.
No.
Players can get injured.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. We're back to square one, Denmark again.
I mean, would Siegrist be happy to be second choice to Joe Hart? For me. That's what it comes down to. Well, Mike Jonas have said it's what £800,000. I'd say to Mike, I'd give them Skpe and the £800,000 to get that Siegrist done.
And I think it is with Siegrist as well. You're making that leap to a really big club, a club going to be competing for honours, and could potentially reignite an international. Yeah. So for me, like we did it before, like with Lucas Zaluska. Zaluska was United's number 1, and he came in to play second fiddle because he was making that bigger leap. I'd see no reason why Siegrist. I heard Charlie Mulgrew was speaking in commentary and said how impressed he's been in the short time he's been there. So there's no doubt he's a good. And I 100% agree. Ideal scenario.
Can I just say, how the hell does Charlie Mulgrew get commentating jobs and I don't?
you play yourself down, Mark. Play yourself down with that voice.
It was, see the way you was see the stuff he was coming out with and that. I was like, how come I can't get a job doing that?
Jeez, imagine me commentating and every name be wrong.
He was on about. He started speaking about the wee boy stealing the ball, didn't he?
The
ball went in the stand. He said that wee man will be away. He's off.
Keep you that. See someone painting, decorating or something as well. And I'm like, what's talking about here?
I just want to touch on something there that's happening over the week, Barry. Look, myself and Mark spoke about numerous of times. It's about this protest about the board on Sunday before the Dundee game. Like, now's not really the time really for protests against the board when we have a new manager and new players trying to settle into the club. Like, they should really wait the transfer window over and see then if Andrew's back fully by the board, shouldn't they?
You know what? I don't know if you guys know my feelings on the board. I don't know if you mentioned it once or twice. But you know what? The board, they're not daft, right?
No.
Because the fans are up in arms for a number of reasons, and there's another one today. I don't know if you guys spoke about it, but there's the season ticket holders having to pay £19 for the game, for the European game next week, and some guys who have not even had one ticket in the ballot. So there's what the board do to take a wee bit of heat off them is they go and produce 2 quality signings, and that's what they've done this week. So they've taken a wee bit of the heat off themselves. For me, it's way deeper than the backing at Ange and the time it's taken to get deals over the line, etc. You just look at the whole sort of infrastructure of the club, and I'm not really wanting to go too deep into it, but we are in a mess in terms of. Maybe that's a strong statement. We are in a mess. What I mean is, you look at the club as it stands at the minute. No director of football. The head of recruitment, etc., is not where it needs to be. However, Ange kind of maybe touched on it earlier.
Yes, exactly.
Yesterday, he says, we are going sort of hell for leather to get the playing squad sorted. Once the transfer window's closed, that's when I'll be looking at things like backroom staff, sports science, and director of football. So it seems to be the player recruitment is
number one, which it should be as well at the moment, didn't it?
There's so many things that the fans are disillusioned with. The engagement with the fans, the discontent that they feel. I must admit, I do think they have a point. What they do about it, I mean, talk about storming doors and that. you just can't do that. That's just not the answer. Storming the front door. You can't be so stupid as to do something.
Especially when
like
there's
that.
new lads trying to settle into the club, bar. Like there's a time and place. Like, you know what I mean?
That's not the way to go about it. You know. I mean, I've made my feelings clear in a previous podcast. The way, and it's something that for me will never happen, is the way you force boards into making decisions, as in things like resignations and so that. It's by cutting them off at the airway, which is the money. And that's by not renewing tickets, that's by not buying merchandise. That'll never happen at a club like Celtic. No. The fan base are far too loyal to allow for some of that. And for me, the boards play on that. They know that. They know. They were very well aware that even though it was one of the worst recorded seasons in the last 25 years, 30 years, finishing 25 points behind the Rangers, the board still knew that they would sell out their season ticket allocation because that's what the Celtic fans do. The Celtic fans are loyal.
Yeah,
and there was no way that they were not going to renew their tickets.
But Barry, we've got a new manager that's been here over a month, a new CEO that's been here just over a month. We've spent £15 million in players. Putting guys like Joe Hart, guys like McCarthy, Kyogo, Abada, that we've all been impressed with. What is the protest about? That's my question. Nobody can actually explain to me what this protest
is. Is it not a combination, Mark? Is it not a combination of everything that's happened since sort of almost a year ago? I thought. I mean, again, I've never looked too far. I've never looked too far into it, to be honest.
But why bring up stuff that's happened a year ago when the clubs they wanted rid of Peter Lil, he's away. They wanted rid of Lennon, he's away. They wanted we've signed him. They wanted a new manager, and we all looked at Celtic fans agree that Big a better answer to Eddie Howe would have been once we looked at what he'd been doing in football and that. I just don't get what's the protesting before the first game of the season.
I mean, I think, with regards to signings, Mark, and you know what, I need to hold my hands up and be honest. For me, they didn't come nearly quick enough. For me, I understand that it's no easy because of COVID and that to get deals over the line, but you only had to look at the back four that finished against Midtjylland a week or two ago. You had Ralston, Montgomery, Murray and Welsh. That's no good enough for me. They should have been better prepared.
Except that, I totally agree with you, but why? I mean, really, as I said, wait till the window's shut and see how better the squad is. I just don't understand.
Yeah, you know what? I know what you're saying, Mark, in terms of waiting till the window's closed. However, and I don't want to tempt fate here, a hypothetical situation, by the time the window's closed, we could have been out of Europe altogether and we could be sitting 9 points, 12 points back the Rangers.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's so I understand in terms of you've got to wait until the window closed to see your squad going forward, but it could be...
You can't go and protest what if this happens in the next 3 weeks and we end up so much...
I was reading a report there.
That's what I'm trying to say, Barry. I don't understand what they're actually... We've got rid of Lowe, we've got rid of Lennon, we're buying players, we've spent £15 million. The young players we've brought in that we've never heard of have impressed us. We're talking about what McCarthy and Joe Hart will bring to the team. We know they're going to sign new defenders, so why bring up stuff that happened a year ago? Why stand out there and protest before our first home game of the season and protest over something that happened a year ago? What Peter Lowell done or what Neil Lennon done or what didn't he do?
I was reading an interesting report that a new CEO of a company can't make changes at boardroom level until he's officially 100 days in the job. So maybe after 100 days, I think the next move out of the club, I think, is Ian Banker's going to be gone. I really think.
But if Banker wants to start a protest outside the stadium?
Well, because no one can explain to me what his role really is in the club. Do you know what I mean? Barry, would you know what kind of role a chairman does within a football club? Because I certainly don't. You
know something, to be honest with you, I wouldn't really know, to be honest with you, Paul. It's not something that I've ever really taken a keen sort of interest in terms of the chair. I mean, Ian Banker is the chairman, is it?
Yeah, I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be next on on the line to maybe step away. I think.
Well, I mean, again, without having.
I wish this was something Celtic fans could just stop talking about.
Exactly, and just concentrate on what we're doing on the pitch.
I mean, it's always stuff, and it's always stuff to do with the boardroom and all this, and they're not doing this right, and they're not doing that. Right, honestly, apart from the timescale, the timescales of what's went on, I don't actually see what they've done wrong. I really don't. The only thing I'll say that Celtic's done wrong, and again, I'm just doing what everybody else has done Heartmore in the past, is no having a long-term future, a long-term, no future vision. Do you know what the bad planning? How so many players were out of contract, how so many players want to leave.
Maybe we might see that change on the Ange. Do we give it time? Like see what Ange is going to do in January or something like that.
I mean, this is a new regime. It's a new manager.
Yeah.
It's a new CEO. So let's see what they can do. It's only been in a month. People are expecting changes to happen overnight. It was never. This is a massive rebuild. Big changes weren't going to happen overnight. And Ange's quite right. Concentrate and getting a team on the park while the window's there to do that, because it's a short window for a size of rebuild.
He spoke about. Was it yesterday? What's that shot we started looking at?
The kids
at the board, like,
kids on, they can't make out what they're saying and things like that.
Like I can understand like why people are unhappy with the board, but fair enough. Like Peter Lawler is gone now, and Neil Lennon is gone. We got them to like. There's still a few cronies I think there as well, Barry, who need to go on that board. Because I read out the list there last time. There's lads on that board there since 2001. Do you know what I mean? And I can't see Celtic progressing when we have such an old people on the board. Like a lot of these fellas are into their 60s. Do you know what I mean? They should be stepping away to younger people to come in and move the club forward, because I think that's what we need. We need a young vision like Dom.
I would agree. Well, I would agree. And listen, I've never had in my thoughts on the board. I've always said, and that's not just on the podcast. I don't think we'll move forward as a club under the current regime. Desmond in that. I just not convinced that. That they're overly in. I'll be perfectly honest. I think they're more interested in cold hard cash than they are what happens with the football club.
If I told you in 2010, Ian Banco owned a director's box over in Ibrox.
He owned one.
He owned a director's box for him and his friends. He bought it for £1 million a season, and he only stopped it then when he in 2000. When he came into, it was just before he did. I read it, Mark. I read it dead straight out. It was down on these companies' assets.
John, Paul, there are plenty of companies around Scotland that have got boxes at Celtic and Rangers. There are plenty of companies down in England that have got boxes at Man United and Man City.
I'm just saying he's a hunt.
No. But it depends who you're trying to close a deal with, Paul.
Exactly.
Years ago, when like a kind of normal street buses, the old red buses we had in Scotland, right? The drivers would get sent, and they were either going to Ibrox or Celtic Park, and they'd a scarf for each occasion, and they just sat in front of their steering wheel.
Here's Buzz now saying I heard the same, that he owned it. Him and his friends owned the box and thing like so. I just think, Mark, that Bankier has been at the club now for too long. I think he's there since past 2002. I think when he came around the chairman or something like that. Or he came, I think that if Dom wants to put in his new ideas, that these people, and you said it as well, Mark, that these will stop him from progressing, like, won't they? Or
don't even need to replace Bankier, but just some fresh blood somewhere on the board.
Yeah.
Mackay's on the board now, so there's some fresh blood.
Because I think change will come under him, and it's not going to happen. I think once we get the playing staff started, I think the next move will be the coaching staff, sports science. I think will be necessary.
Once the window shuts, you'll see moves behind the scenes. We were talking about the sports science guy that left, Yoko Shama.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to be coming in? We don't know.
There seems to be something there, like the sports science fellow of Yokohama has left in the last 2 weeks, and he's actually.
And said himself as well, I've got ideas about how we could move forward, and Dom's got his ideas about it. And Mackay spoke about following Brentford's model. So we know what there is going to be changes as we move forward. But the most important thing they know to everybody at Celtic is getting a team on this park that can challenge for the league next season. Everything else can wait. Everything else will take. So leave that and get this team in the park sorted and get this league title back.
Moving on to the second leg, you expect Celtic to go through comfortably, Barry, wouldn't you? But I was saying to Mark, like, at this moment, I don't take nothing for granted with Celtic, because the way we concede goals at the moment, we should have enough in the tank to get this done now.
Yeah, I mean, barring an absolute disaster, you'd like to think we'll see it through. I mean, we'll had enough chances in the game tonight to potentially even get double figures. The chances were that good, like Kyogos, Turnbulls. There was chances created, that we really could have put the tie to bed. It's not in the balance. Celtic are strong favourites, and I would expect them to go next Thursday, and we could actually score a good few goals. But whilst you see the goals that you lose tonight, there's always that wee nagging.
Exactly, that's it. You see,
length of time, yeah. I mean, I guess the good thing,
if they get the first goal next week, Barry, like, your nerves will click in, like, won't they?
That's it. Or even, even if it stays 0-0, Paul, up to 60, 65, 70 minutes, and then they go and get a goal, there's no doubt that sort of negative vibe sets in, not just in the crowd, but in the players' minds. But listen, let's try and think positively. I'd like to think we'll certainly have enough to get through this tie. They showed enough today.
You'll pump them next week.
Especially when I believe that we'll have a full house as well next week, won't we?
Can you ask what the message you today, the score?
Aye, 4-0. 4-0. You got the amount of goals right.
Yeah, but they were really poor. I thought they'd have been better than that. We spoke about.
I did as well, man. I thought they'd be better. And you know what? Like I say, like, I didn't know a great deal about them. I need to hold my hands up in there. But when you think they're third in the Czech league, they weren't too far behind one of the Prague teams. You're thinking they must be handy, but they were. I'll tell you what they were physical, and they had one or two half decent players. But tell a man, we're a much better team than that. And the thing is as well, next week you might win very well. We've got a full house, I think, next week.
Yeah,
so I'd imagine the fans will be in full voice and glad to be back in the stadium. I think there'll be a real buzz about the place now. I'm hopefully going to I'm going to try and take my boys through to the game. I'm going to try and get a couple of tickets. I think they go on general sale to the public on Tuesday, so I'm going to try and go through there. And I think it'll be a carnival atmosphere, and I think we'll really see a good performance next week.
It's something that Celtic really thrived on, is the fans being behind, especially in Europe. We really need to, because last season we saw the fear factor of coming to Celtic Park, and the fans themselves need to bring that fear factor back to Celtic Park as well, Barry, don't they?
Yeah, something, but for want of repeating myself, there's no doubt in my mind that Celtic suffered without having the fans behind their back.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt in that. And like I say, across the other side, I actually think they thrived.
Benefit.
The season before, they struggled under, their own fans. But, they lost to Hamilton at home. They really, players really crumbled, really buckled under the pressure. And they had the freedom last year at not having any fans in the stadium. They played with a bit of freedom. We struggled for whatever reason to get to the levels that we'd been used to getting to before. So I think there's no doubt about it. Once we get the fans back in the stadium, I'll give the players a real lift. And, like I say, sometimes even opposition players, when they play in front of 60,000 fans, sometimes they get a bit uptight and they can.
And this Czech club would have never played in this a stadium like Celtic.
It's easy to play in a big arena when there's no fans there and there's no sort of fans on your back and things like that. So no, for me, getting the fans back into the stadium, getting these capacity crowds, it's only going to benefit Celtic. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Mark, is there anything you would do if you were Ange for next week's game, or would you be more or less the same, or would you like him to tighten up a bit more or something like that?
Start with Welsh against Dundee. I start with Welsh and Starfield against.
Yeah, you see what way they go.
That would be probably my only change I would make for next week, is getting Bitton out the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think because we said the same, Mark, with the last game against Hearts, like we thought that team would play against the team tonight, but thank God Edward has dropped. But if Welch is actually playing on Sunday and if he gets dropped again for the Champions League, like, questions need to be asked, like what's going on here, like why is Beaton getting ahead of Welch, like, you know what I mean?
If Beaton starts on Sunday,
Because that's my only criticism really of Ange is Beaton.
the
Do you
team,
know what I mean?
the team that starts on Sunday will be the team that starts next week against him.
Yeah. And listen, for me, Sunday's an important game for us. I think a
well,
lot of people are like, Dundee. Listen, we need to get 3 points on the board.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. We've got 2 home games. I think it's Dundee and St Mirren before we go to Ibrox. In the league.
These are,
it's a
these
big
are two games. Like we like Celtic have to win. Like it's fair enough. When in Europe tonight, good result for us. But at the end of the day, the bread and butter for Celtic next season is the league. And if we don't get started in ways, like, we don't want to be going into a gap against Rangers 6 points already. That could develop to 9 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be playing catch up early, and it's a long season. But for me, every single fixture is a big game for us. We realise the task in hand. We realise it's going to be a difficult league this year. The teams seem to be pretty competitive. So I think the Scottish League's going to be a really good league this year. So no matter who it is you're playing, whether it's a Dundee at home or a Ross County away, they're big games. So I don't think
It's a cup final for us.
Yeah.
Definitely, Matt. I don't think we could dismiss it just because it's Dundee. I think we need to really go and put a statement down and say, right, let's get our league campaign up and running.
At the moment, I think a lot of the teams in Scotland are looking at Celtic going, knows a better time than any to play Celtic. Do you know what I mean? How we're struggling at the back, Barry. Do you know what I mean?
And see any team that's watched Celtic, even Dundee will be like that. If we can get in about their defence, we've got a chance. But see, as the season goes on, that will go away.
That's what I mean. The
Absolutely.
fans, like having the fans back, Mark. Like, it's up to the fans as well to make Celtic Park into a fortress again. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it is. Because like the Celtic fans are intimidated to any team that's come to Celtic. Like, they really are the 12th man.
Intimidate players. That's what I'm saying for years about when you're trying to bring young players through. You've got to allow them a bit of leeway. Do you know what I'm talking about, Barry? If you made a bad pass and there's some old boy giving you dog's abuse at the side of the park, you're like, fucking old dick, isn't it? Because you've got to allow for young players to make. So
Definitely.
If you've got 50,000, 60,000, you're fucking doing that for them. It's going to have an effect on a young player. They're scared to try something different.
You know what? Some managers have said it going to Celtic Park. What they want to try and keep it as 0-0 as long as possible, because after a certain point, the fans start to get a bit grumpy.
Exactly.
The home fans start to get a bit restless, and like you say, a wayward pass, and the whole place is in uproar. So that's a lot of tactics for away teams at Celtic Park, is try and keep it tight, try and keep it the scoreline close for as long as possible. And if you keep it to 0-0 or even nick a goal ahead, the fans will start to get on their back. You know what? It's a tactic at any club with a big fan base. It's exactly the same. If things aren't going their way, they tend to get a wee bit on edge, a wee bit restless. They tend to moan. So, but like you say, Matt, we've got young players. You've got to sort of encourage them. If they make a bad pass, God, anybody makes a mistake. Everybody makes a bad pass. You've got to really try and get behind them and encourage them.
They would make mistakes a bit, Barry, isn't it? It's something that I've said for years, kind of holds back a lot of youth players in Celtic. The weighty expectation, because the simplest wee mistake. I mean, it's even worse now with all this on social media and things like that.
Oh, definitely. But you know what? Going back to a point we made earlier. See if that does happen. For example, like a Welsh or a Murray or even a Badal. I still can't go over that kid's 19-year-old. If he does make a mistake, that's where your McGregors, your McCarthy's, your Harts get in.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Encourage him. Don't worry about it, wee man. You'll get it next time. Not a problem. That's where the experience comes in. And again, it's another part of helping and developing a young player, having an experienced player.
I saw today, Barry, was the lad Zaka, who missed a penalty and for England in the final. And when he returned to Arsenal yesterday, the first team players had all these kind of best wishes to him up on the wall. The fans had best wishes up on the wall. That's what your experienced player do. They'll help these young players get over these bad days that they had. Like, put them to the side. Don't worry about it. learn from your mistakes. Do you know what I mean? That, that's what
Scott Brown would have been the guy who did that previously.
And that's what the lads will bring to us. Like, you know what I mean? Exactly. We're not just going to have one. We're going to have two. Now, it's bringing to a good point here, lads. And that point is, Zorro, is he turned into the player we thought he was, or is he still too rash or inexperienced for this role, or do we have to play McCarthy there?
Well, McCarthy's moving in there straight away.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about that. And I mean, McCarthy will start. Well, maybe no. I'm not saying in Sunday's game or that, but he'll be first choice. McCarthy's going to be a first choice in there next to McGregor. There's no question of that, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sorrow, we know that he's a good player, a decent player, but he's not played a lot of football for us. But we can see there's a player in there. It's just
it does go back to the problem, Mark, that we said last week, like that. If he was bred into the team, Barry, properly last season, Zorro would have been comfortable, and he would have been the player we want him to be already at Celtic. You know.
Yeah. Sorry, I just lost you for a wee second. Yeah, no, I think it's a difficult one. Sorry, like Matt said, there's no doubt there's a player in there. It's just, I agree with Matt. McCarthy comes straight in. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You're not going to bring in a Premier League player on a 4-year contract and not play him. It could be that Sorrow benefits from, like I say, having these guys in and around him.
So, yeah.
And like I say, when I seen the midfield on Saturday, sort of McGregor, Turnbull, and
we got bullied.
It didn't do it for me. Yeah, they weren't. For me, they're not physical enough. That's a team that'll get overrun. And he's got some elements in his game that he probably needs to cut out, like you mentioned earlier. But he's prone to giving away fouls, and when we're as vulnerable as we are at set pieces, you can't be giving fouls. And he did kind of similar tonight. He was giving away fouls that were a wee bit unnecessary. But I think he's one of these players that's maybe a bit rough round the edges. Maybe just needs to polish up his game.
That's what McCarthy did, would help him tidy up that, Mark, wouldn't he?
Look, a wee rough diamond. He's just needing a wee kind of shine round the edges and to learn the game a bit more, because he's not really played that many games at all. So you've got to kind of, as you said, Paul, if he'd got more game time last season, his progression would have been further on.
Yeah.
So he's kind of, he's like a year, 6 months behind where we'd expect him to be. But I think there's a good player in there, and he's just needing to learn a wee bit better how to read the game and stop being so rash with things. And Ange will teach him that.
Another thing too I want to touch on, and I don't want to go into his personal life and stuff like that, so we'll keep it just for football reasons, is the injuries already we're seeing Lee Griffiths pick up. Like, that's another concern as well, that are we not going to have a fit Lee Griffiths this season, or is he going to be picking up these injuries, do you think?
Is he injured, Paul? Let's be honest.
We don't know, yeah, exactly, Mark.
Says we're getting into stuff in his personal life, but
we don't know.
For me, Lee Griffiths is finished at Celtic. Yeah. And
I mean,
people that are saying, offer him to Hibs for part of a deal for Nisbet.
They're not going to take him, Mark. No,
Tibbs take him. There's no reason for Hibs to be the one involved with that. Well, that circus.
It was really the strangest thing that Griffiths got the new contract, because Mark, you pointed out, Barry pointed out, Michael pointed out, he hasn't had a good season really until Ronnie Dyla, and it's one area we're really lacking a real talent is a striker, and that needs to be rectified as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll hold my hands up. I'm big enough. I was always a Lee Griffiths fan. I really was. You know what? To a certain extent, I don't take it back, because he was one guy for me you could always rely on. Whilst he was on the park, he was always capable of getting you a goal. For me, things have just gone far too far now. He's had far too many chances now, and even the end of last season, again, I hold my hands up. I was one of the ones that said, you know what, I'm glad we gave him a year. I wouldn't understand why you'd want to release somebody, and this has happened again. So no, I'll hold my hands up. I called that one wrong. In my opinion, I've gone back. I don't think he should have been offered a year. I think his career at Celtic is over. what's happening. I don't know if there's stuff going on behind the scenes, if they're actively trying to get him out or whatever. I'd imagine there'll be stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But for me, two things. One, he's either injured, which for me is another massive red flag.
Exactly. So already the season,
he got injured or the injury is potentially a bit of a cover-up to something a bit deeper. And if that's the case, either way, for me, I can't see him featuring this season.
Either or, he's missed another pre-season. He's not turned up for games. It's just another.
What
did he play?
He's not been available for Champions League qualifiers.
Was it the last 10 minutes? I think he played against West Ham, and all of a sudden he's injured. If Lee Griffith's injured after 10 minutes, there's big concerns there. Do you know what I mean? Can another injured player in our squad again? Ridiculous.
Like I say, Paul,
I don't see him with any future at Celtic. I think it would be. We came to some kind of deal with Encham to get him off the books. Even if we need to pay off Lee Griffiths to get him off the books, it'd be best for everybody concerned just to cut ties with him in that way.
There's one point.
Whilst we might use him as bait, I would have Nisbet as his ready-made replacement if possible. I would definitely bring Nisbet in to replace Lee Griffiths.
Totally agree with that, definitely.
Yeah,
I don't see any why Hibs would entertain taking Lee.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you.
That's one thing
for me that. Yeah.
I
was just going to say that for me, like, Nisbet's a ready-made replacement. I know he divides opinion on the forum, Nisbet, and it's great, everybody's entitled to an opinion, but for me, I've never shied away from the fact that I really like that guy, and I just think you put him in a Celtic team, he's going to score you a bucket load of goals, and he seems to be a natural fit for Ange's teams because he works his socks off, he takes some good positions, he gets goals, he's got great movement. I've really studied this guy a lot over the last season, not just against Celtic. Anytime I've watched him to see if I felt he would fit in the Celtic team, well, my conclusions is that for me he would, and it'd be a no-brainer to go and get him.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereabouts, Barry? What kind of? I mean, would you take Nisbet to replace Edward?
Not Edward. For me, he would replace a Griffiths.
Right.
So I'd want like a Kyogo. I've not even got a suggestion. I know there's been umpteen. There's the guy Bupedza, for Turkey. The boy Jean-Kevin Augustine, he's been linked. I remember him at Leipzig was a right good player. That's the kind of mould of. I'm not saying that guy because I think he's only played 3 games in 2 seasons. But these are the guys that have been linked. For me, these guys would be ready-made replacements. They're guys that.
Where's Nisbet? Right, is Scott Nisbet going to leave Hibs, sit at Celtic's bench to be second choice to Edward's replacement? We're talking about young players, Barry, they want to play every week. If a team in the Championship down in England, or even, I don't know, the boatmen to the Premier League are willing to say you'll be first choice for us, he's going to pick them up Celtic easily, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, for me, there shouldn't be an automatic first choice. Who's to say we don't go and get a replacement for Edward and Kyogo's the number one? Or, I've always maintained, I think I said it in the forum, for me, any sort of club that plays the amount of games at Celtic, the European domestic play, we should have 4 strikers in our squad. And you look across
3. If you only play 1, you can get away with 3, but you need a minimum. Strikers.
Yeah, for me, I would go. I mean, you look across the road; they've got 5. They've got Morelos, they've got Roof, Itten, Sakala, and Defoe. They've got 5, and they only play 1 up front. So for me, but like that. So if you've got Kyogo can play on the wing, etc. But I just think for me, Nisbet's right under your nose, and who's to say they won't? I mean, not that I would. Who's to say they won't think that he can replace Edward? If a certain style,
I totally agree with you, but I've said that before. You need players to be like pushing. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, pushing each other. Yeah, exactly.
Even if it is a replacement for Edward, Nisbet would be the type of player that would push them on. But just what if? Do you know what I mean? Would they be happy to be the weight to be actually pushed on? Do you get what I mean?
I completely get what you mean. Again, you could potentially look at his background. Here's a kid that I think was he released by Partick Thistle? I think he was released by Partick Thistle as a kid. He got a move to Raith Rovers, scored a bucket load of Raith Rovers, got a move to Dunfermline, again on Hibs. This is the next step in his career. So, I get what you're saying, Mark, but I get when you look at this kid's career, this is another progression, another step. And, for me, you've got to have a young, confident guy like that. He's just broke into the Scotland team. He got a goal against the Netherlands. He should back himself. He should think, well, you know what? Maybe I've replaced Edward and I'm coming in, but I reckon I'm good enough to come and take his place. And like you said, Mark, it's all benefits the squad. If you've got guys pushing each other on, They know that if I'm not on top of my game, I'm going to be at this team here. Unlike Edward. Edward knew last year, well, it doesn't matter how I play. I'm going to play every week. If I have a stinker, if I score, if I dinner, I'm going to play every week. Whereas this competition between Kyogo, for example, or Nisbet if he was to come, or whoever else was to come in the door, because right now, look at the situation we're in. We've got one striker that's no fit, we've got one that's just not doing it, and we've got one that's not interested. So whilst we've got 3 strikers on the books, none of them are really setting the heather light or really staking a claim for a place. But it remains to be seen what's going to happen.
And I've said it 100 times as well, Barry, but you've just said Celtic play enough games a season to keep young players and fringe players happy enough to get their games. I mean, there's no reason for Cal McGregor and that to be playing 50 odd games a season.
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
You could say that even they could have mixed up the midfield last season. We were going about Brown starting so many games, but Cal Mack shouldn't have started so many games either.
No.
No,
definitely not. Definitely not.
I don't mean any slagging to young wee teams like your Kilmarnock, well, Accies are relegated, but you play young players against them. You don't, right? They're going on about like McCarthy, maybe they're all going about his injury prone. So you're not going to maybe play McCarthy against Kilmarnock if you've got a European game or an All-Firm, a derby game on the horizons. I mean, use your squad. You don't need to rely on so many players, and that's how the younger players are going to get better.
And they need to play, man, like you say. They need to play. That's the whole reason of having a squad, is you've got to utilise it. Because like that, this McGregor's played a ridiculous. I think you rattled off tonight, didn't he? It's something like an average of 50 odd games a season he's played for the last however many seasons.
Charlie,
that can't be.
Charlie says you'll not hear of that anywhere else in the world.
And you know what? You wonder what effect that'll have on him as he gets older. He might that might potentially hamper him as he gets older. But I mean, McGregor's a fit guy. He strikes me as a type of player that wouldn't want to miss out on games. But sometimes that's where you need a strong manager to say, well, listen, we've got a lot of games coming up, a lot of important games. You're going to sit this one out. But I mean, it remains to be seen what's going to happen. But let's look forward to it.
Mark, another thing I noticed as well is that Alan seems to be very slow in bringing in subs as well. Do you think that is that going to continue, or will we see? Because Tony was really kind of struggling today. Do you know what I mean? But we really don't have players out to come on and make a difference at the moment as well, do we?
See, really, Paul. When does it? Right, everybody goes on about making a change at half time. I see, unless somebody's having a stinker. When do you take anybody off at half time?
Not really, no, to be honest, yeah.
I mean, you're talking the first substitution will give maybe 10 minutes after half time. Talking 55, 60 minutes usually. For me, that's normal. I don't think there's anything weird about that. It's like,
I'm only putting it on as well, because the lads were saying on the live chat as well, like that he's very late with things like so. Is that kind of the norm, like 65 minutes?
I think it's a norm. Unless you're having a pure stinker of a game and you're getting pulled off at half time, you're asking questions, aren't you? Is that play?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never really looked too much into this, so I don't know. People seem to get caught up in substitutions.
Saying, Barry, to me,
I just don't really understand. Listen, I understand. See, if you're 2-0 down or you're 3-0 down and you're really needing to throw a bit of caution to the wind, yeah, absolutely. But people get caught up on the minutes of substitution. Oh, he didn't bring him on until the 73rd minute. I don't know. Let the manager do his job. That's what he gets paid to do. You can have an opinion about it, but I never really understood people that get so caught up. He's taking too long to make substitution. I've never really got that. I've never really understood. People complain
because it seems to be all over the live chat tonight.
You see it on the live chat. People 20 minutes or want to get Turnbull off. You want to do that. There's no manager. I can remember taking a player off after that kind of time just because they're not playing well. You give the player a chance, get to half time, give him a rocket up his arse. If it doesn't come off the next 10 minutes, he's hooked. Was that not the kind of way you go, Barry?
Absolutely, but the thing was as well, we were winning 3-1. You know what I mean? We're winning the game 3-1. I don't really understand why.
That's when
people are getting. Listen, I can understand that if we're getting beat 2-0 and Turnbull's having a stinker, and he maybe leaves him on till the 18th minute, and people are like, well, why did he not get him off and try and change it? But we're 3-1 up in the game. I don't understand why people are saying, he should be off. No. I don't know. People are entitled to their opinions, but I never ever get caught up on how long it takes even Lennon, I never really got caught up on the fact that he never made a substitution or whatever it may be. The players are on the pitch. They've got a job to do. The manager will decide if and when they come off and who comes on for them. But like I say, each into their own, I guess.
No, but that comes to me, see on like Twitter and things like that. So if so many people on Twitter say the same thing, it becomes like an opinion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So many people moaned about no putting substitutions on, so everybody just kind of caught and don't that was something that was wrong. But show me a manager that's going to change substitutions like half an hour into a game to change tactics and things like that. Very, very rarely that happens.
You know what, Mark? It's like a supporters thing, isn't it? It's like a supporters debate. You're sitting at a game, even if you're at the match, he's having a stinker, he better not come out for the start of the second half, they need to get so and so on. Everybody's a manager sitting in the stands giving their opinion. That tends to be what it's like. If somebody's not playing well, they very simply think, well, he should be off, he's not getting a chance to redeem himself. That tends to be what it is, isn't it?
Every Celtic player will be judged on their last pass. I've said that for years now. That's just last touch of the ball. Do you know what I mean? Get him off. That touch was terrible, and off it was.
Yeah.
And social media kind of feeds it.
Yeah.
And
I think it's the sort of fans have changed, haven't they? Possibly ever be part of it. Kind of gone are the days whereby a player makes a mistake, or when Celtic used to lose a goal, especially in Europe, the place used to erupt, get behind them.
Yes, exactly.
See now that's gone. They lose a goal and it's grumbling and moaning, and it seems to be we've kind of evolved into a different brand of supporter now.
But that's down to. Barry, they didn't witness these new Celtic supporters. I couldn't call them new, but this new generation of Celtic supporters. We say that they only witnessed Celtic doing the nine in the row, maybe the quadruple trebles. They weren't there in the 90s before Martin Neal came in. Rangers were doing the 9 in the row themselves before Wim Jansen came in and stopped it. You know what I mean? They haven't seen Celtic as their teams. You know what I mean?
If you were 9-year-old when Celtic started winning leagues and that, you're 19 now.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? You're a young. Do you know what everybody's like when you're young? Do you know what I mean? 19.
Plus, you just constantly seeing success, Mark, didn't you?
That's what you get up on. Then all of a sudden you're 19. You've got a bit of an opinion. You're out with your mates, a few bevies and things like that, and all of a sudden Celtic still win. You're like, what's going on here? It's something that young lads are used to. Which you can understand. Do you get what I mean? But it's like the older.
They don't know how to deal with not being successful. That's what it is. They don't know how to deal with it.
And it's a bit. To me, it's a bit Rangers. It's a bit the way Rangers fans are. They always they were that used to. See, like the older. See, like.
Yes, exactly.
Our generation of the Rangers fans feel like the younger generation of Celtic fans feel now. They were that used to being successful when they weren't. Did they compute? And now these young Celtic fans are growing up wasting success, but seen so much success, 9 in a row, quadruple trebles, and then all of a sudden we won nothing with the clubs in the state it's in. So you can see why all these young men are a bit angry about it. I still don't agree with the protests and that, but we'll not get into that again. But for me, that's what it comes down to. That's what they've been.
They haven't witnessed, Mark. Yeah, exactly. That they haven't witnessed the bad times in their lifetime for Celtic. They have to take the good with the bad. And if you're Celtic, you follow Celtic through and through. Do you know what I mean? You follow the club good and you follow the club when it's bad. But as you said, and Mark said as well, Celtic aren't going to be pleasing everyone. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be a minority there, no matter how good Celtic are, they'll still find a flaw within the club. Do you know? That just sums up some Celtic supporters, really, doesn't it? Anyone?
Oh, don't even start me on that after
Yeah.
we've speaking. Do you know what I mean, Paul? We see it on the forum every
Yeah, exactly. That's in a nutshell. Like, yeah,
negative.
you know,
No matter what happens, it's negative. We saying James McCarthy, oh, if he can stay fit. We saying Joe Hart, oh, he's hardly played a game for 2 years. I mean, Joe Hart signed for Burnley because Tom Heaton and Nick Pope were injured. He played games for Burnley. He signed for Hibs. He signed for Spurs as that Hugo Lloris's backup. That's why he knew what he was doing. He wasn't playing. It doesn't matter how many games he was playing. He's still been training at the top level with a top club for a year.
exactly.
He's playing every week. Doesn't mean he's not been kicking up. We signed Craig Gordon that hadn't kicked a ball in 3 years. He was ready to retire because his knees were jiggered, and we signed him. And folk are moaning because we're saying Joe Hart.
Exactly.
Rant over. Power to the people.
Perfect. That's it for tonight's show, lads. Thanks to Barry, as always, who joins us. We'll be live again on Sunday night, doing the pre-match after Celtic versus Dundee. We do the build-up again for Celtic's Europa League second leg qualifier. Myself, thanks to you in the live chat. Thanks to Barry again for coming on. Barry, you want to say anything before we go?
No, it's just been good to be back. It's been a wee while. I've been listening to all of them. Obviously, I've had a bit of work commitments recently, but I've listened to other podcasts. It's been good to get back on and speak to you guys again. And
the pronunciation hasn't got better, Barry.
Well,
just say it.
You know what? I must admit, I laugh every time we're linked with some foreigner from Croatia, from Japan, because I think Paul must be quaking in his bits having to pronounce
I
this
said
guy.
that to you, Mark. Don't I
know
said
what,
that to you? Like, how am I going to pronounce that? Like?
Credit where credit's due. You were going for Furuhashi instead of the easier Kyogo. So fair touch off to you, Paul. You took the tougher option. I would have went with Kyogo if I was you.
I said that to my wife earlier. Who's that wee guy? She said, I'm like, Kyogo. That's just as far as I'll go.
That's it. But fair play, you gave it a bash.
Mark, do you want to close the show, buddy?
Thanks again, Paul, for everything. Thanks very much, Barry, for coming on. Everybody enjoyed us, that joined us in the live chat. At least we're celebrating a win eventually under Ange. If you haven't subscribed, please do it, and remember to smash the like button. Hail, hail, God bless. Good night, lads.